Hello, and welcome to the Being Human podcast, where we explore what it means to be human, physically, mentally, and spiritually. We upload an episode of this podcast every single week, so whether you're new here or especially if you're returning and you have not yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss any of these episodes. On this episode of the podcast, I sat down with Rio Mitcham. Rio is a Team GB athlete. He is a 400 metre sprinter. He's one of the fastest 400 metre sprinters, not just in the country, but in the world. He is also a music artist, one half of the Smokiecoco rap duo, the other half being his brother Alex. This conversation was all about what Rio does, his athletic career, his career as an artist. I spoke to him actually at the end of this conversation about an article I published recently, giving guidance to young men in their 20s as to how they can best spend their 20s. And basically, the conclusion I came to is you want to maximize adventure in your life. And the best way to do that is by living the life of either an artist or an athlete or both. And Rio is absolutely that by every definition. A world-class athlete and a fantastic artist producing great music. This was really fun. Rio and I had a good few laughs throughout this conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as we did. If you do, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below, share it around on social media, and hit that subscribe button too. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to hit that follow button and rate the show 5 stars. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Being Human. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Rome Protein Bars. These are fantastic. I'm not a fan of protein bars. You know me, I love to eat real whole foods, but Rome Protein Bars are just that. These are grass-fed beef bars. They're completely natural. They're not full of a load of garbage that other protein bars are. These have really been a game changer for me, helping me fuel post-workout, pre-workout in a quick, easy and efficient manner without compromising on the quality of the foods that I eat. I take these with me everywhere I go. I love to snack on a couple straight after a workout. The protein that you get per bar for the calories that are in them is pretty insane. You're looking at less than 150 calories in a bar and 17, 18 plus grams of protein. So they're fantastic when you're looking to stay lean, make weight if you're a weight cut athlete. My favourite flavours are these smoky paprika, almond and cranberry bars, and the apricot and crunchy hazelnut flavour too. To pick up some bars for yourself, all you need to do is to head to roamfood.com and use the code AARON10 to get 10% off your order. That's roamfood, ROAM, food.com, and use the code AARON, ARUN, all caps, 10 to get 10% off your order. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Mr. Bassett's Grappler's Coffee and Mr. Bassett's Grappler Soap. Mr. Bassett's brings you quality, natural goods that are going to nourish you, not harm you. Grappler Soap is the soap to use if you're a combat sports athlete to fight off those skin infections, keep them at bay, and stay smelling fresh for your training partners. And Grappler's Coffee is the coffee to get you caffeinated so you can continue to wrist lock, punch choke, and oil check your training partners into oblivion. All you need to do to pick up these goods is to head to MrBassett.com and use the code WAG10 to get 10% off your order. That's MrBassett.com, WAG, all caps, 10 to get 10% off your order. And now presenting Being Human with Rio Mitcham. At the very inception of it all, what was your first significant memory when it came to music and your first significant memory when it came to sports and athletics?
Straight off the bat. First significant memory. So first significant one in athletics is like I went to sports day. Actually, before that, we used to do like races on the playground in school, primary school, like year 4 or so, and then year 4, and then there was this like every time like a new kid would come to the school, they would race the fastest kid. And then at some point I became the fastest kid. So then I enjoyed that idea of like, we would do races anyway in the school in lunch and stuff like that, but then like if a new kid came, I was the guy type of thing. And I remember that being like a thrill. And then I think like the year 5 and 6 in sports, they would race each other. So like you'd race the older kids, and then I raced this kid called Billy. I've said his name before one time, and I was like, you know what? It's a good part of the story. I don't actually know what he does now, but
it's a movie name. Yeah. It sounds like he'd be called Billy. Like, if they were to like make a movie of your life, like you beat Billy the year above in school. Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah, and he was the fastest. And then when I beat him, I remember thinking like, oh, I'm the fastest kid in the school. And then my parents realized that I liked that thrill. and then they took me to a local athletics track, and then I kind of started from there. So yeah, sports day was a really big part for me in athletics early, and then music, like it was one of them things that I don't know what it's like with you, but my parents, especially my dad, had a really big influence on my music. So my earliest memories is probably like just sitting in the back of a car with my brother, staring out the window. My dad's got like Usher or Michael Jackson playing or something, and then eventually that all became my like taste. So yeah, definitely earliest music. My dad used to DJ back when he was younger.
Oh, okay, cool. So
he had
it's in your blood. So
he had like really big collection, CDs, records, blah blah blah. So yeah, definitely them times come to mind.
what about athletics? Was your dad an athlete?
He did football. He would probably dramatize how good he was if I asked him what level he made.
Different answer if I asked him.
Yeah. But yeah, he played football and he was quick. And I've seen photos of him back in the day where he had like an 8-pack. So he was not lying about that. I've got evidence. So yeah, maybe there's some involvement there. But he was. I played football when I was young as well, and he was quite a big influence on that. And I remember when I stopped playing football, there was a semi part of me that felt like I was letting my dad down because of that. But
because he was very keen for you.
He's very keen on football, and I'd obviously he'd take me. He's one of them dads, really supportive, still is. He'd take me everywhere, and we'd be traveling all over for football trials, training all the time. But yeah, when it was like a thing where I was gonna focus on athletics, it definitely was like I want to focus on athletics. So could have been worse.
Yeah, talk to me about that progression. You started training athletics when you were like around 10, 11, right? If it was year 6. Yeah. At what point? Well, talk to me about that progression, like what those early years were like in the sport, and then that inflection point where you decided, like, yeah, I really want to go all in on athletics from a sports perspective.
Athletics is like, it was back then. I'm not sure if it is the same now, but like you'd go to a track. So I went to Telford, and then you would. So athletics obviously has jumping, throwing, longer distance, shorter distance, and you would go and join like basically a group of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds that would try everything, which is cool because you then get to figure out what you're good at and you get to have fun throwing and jumping and blah, blah, blah. It's not just run. And then I knew like from the start that I wanted to sprint. So then I went to a sprint group. But my main issue was, and it was kind of the same with football, was like I hit puberty really late. So and like so late that like in football some of the guys I played with used to call me Squeaks because my voice was so high. So like I got to a point where a lot of the kids were just getting bigger than me, same in football, and I was struggling to compete physically. So like I would just get hit off the ball and blah blah, and to a point I just wasn't really enjoying it. But then in track I always for some reason had this mindset with athletics that was different, that was like at some point I'm going to grow for one. So it's going to level off. And then if I just, because it's an individual sport, if I just keep getting better and better whilst that happens, eventually either I get better than them or they quit. That was the mindset I always had. Like eventually it would just always work. So yeah, when I started to hit puberty later on, like 15, 16, blah, 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 I just kind of felt like it was leveling off. And at that point I started to learn more about the sport and like educate myself, learn more about my body. And then in that time, it started to get a bit better for me. A bit more like this could actually happen. And then I got a teeny bit when I was 17. I got my first GB junior vest at like a home international meet. So that was my first sense of like something coming from the sport.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, forgive me, I don't know exactly how it works, but I assume like you have kind of similar to, obviously I'm comparing it to my sport, jiu-jitsu. You have regional comps, meets, do you call them? And then like depending on like how well you place in those, then you might end up going to nationals. If you win nationals, that's when you have opportunities like Team GB, right?
Yeah. So it's basically like basically how you explain. So I would join Telford, so that was my club, and then we'd have like a county champs, Shropshire, and then above that you'd have a Midland champs, and then you'd have a nationals, and then for nationals you would need a qualification time. I'm not sure if that happens when you're younger, but from Telford I didn't even know that the nationals was a thing. It wasn't really spoken about. So I only actually did my first nationals when I was like 16 and I'd heard about it, and so I'm not too sure about the qualification if you need a time or anything, but there is something called English schools where you do need like certain times, so it kind of mimics like how the Olympics would work type of thing. But yeah, nationals is well, when I was like 17, 16, 17, first time I went. That was the first time I'd raced people like outside of Birmingham or Telford area. And like when I was younger, especially if I'd go from Telford to Birmingham, I would just get beat. All the Birmingham kids would just beat me, and I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not the quickest. But yeah, as I said, as I progressed, the first time I went to nationals, fortunately, like, I was a bit older, and I just won Midlands. So that was the first time I beat the kids from Birmingham.
So it wasn't a overnight success from the start. Like, you had years where like you were not winning Midlands. It wasn't straight away you were winning Midlands going to nationals. You had numerous years where you weren't getting that first place.
Yeah, definitely. And even that year, so the year before I'd ran 10.8, I think, and that was my PB in the 100 meters. And then that year in 2017, I remember telling all my training partners, like, oh, I'm going to run 10.3, I'm going to run 10.3. And that would have put me like first in the UK. And I was probably like 100th before. It sounded kind of ridiculous, but I just remember I was in the gym like basically every day, like learning on my own, going to my sessions with my coach, like just doing all this stuff behind the scenes. I was like, no, I'm going to improve. I ended up running 10.4, and I was UK number one at the time when I ran 10.4. And
how old were you then?
17. UK number one for that age group.
Yeah.
Which was just cool. Imagine you're in school and you're UK number one.
Yeah.
It was cool at the time.
At the time, I think that's cool all the time.
But then after that, like I, as I said, I made the GB Juniors team at home internationals, but I didn't actually make the relay team. I was one of the two that was just a reserve. So if you don't know, like when you're normally relays will have reserve runners just in case. I was in that case. There was 6 people selected for that GB Juniors team, and I was one of the 2 that didn't run. So I got all the kit and stuff, and then didn't even actually get to run. And then that happened again the year after. And then after that, I didn't get any GB senior, any success until 2022. So it was like 4 years down the line. I moved events in between. I'd gone up to the 200, then I'd gone up to the 400, and I'd like switched training.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because you were referencing 100 meters then, but like you run 400 meters now. Yeah.
So there was a big time frame where like it was like, yeah, I do. Obviously, I have talent. There's potential there from what had happened when I was 16, 17, but like I was just training, and I was really the only person that was kind of seeing that potential that whole time until these last couple of years. So yeah, I think one thing that I think is special about my journey is that is rare, but it shows that it can happen. Like if you're not
the switching of events,
I meant just progressing later.
Oh, okay.
Just having them years where it's like it's not really working out, and you could easily quit. And in sports like yours, where there's not a lot of money, and athletics, there's not a lot of money, like it's so easy to quit.
Yeah,
it's so easy to stop. Yeah. And I think when you get to them years like 21, 22, especially when you leave uni or maybe you've left school and you just started working and it's hard and you've got responsibilities that you didn't have before. If you're not improving in them years, it can be really tough. And I don't blame people when they quit. But I think one reason my story is quite special is that I didn't quit in that time. And then it worked out late for me when a lot of people, it just works out when they're 17, they just make the teams and then they carry on from there.
Yeah. Well, especially in like sports as established as athletics and football, because they're so established, like you get the best athletes from the country going into those sports from young. So 99.9% of the people that succeed are the people that have succeeded from the start because like they were destined to, like they were born, that's what they were born to do. They were born to be an elite athlete. So I think, I do think that's especially special in a sport like yours, where everything is so established. You've got like the best athletes in the country going into it. I mean, like, talk to me about that period where you weren't at the place that you were quote unquote supposed to be. Like mentally, what were you thinking? Like, what made you keep going?
So, I always had this I touched on it but I always had this feeling of like, if I carry on improving and carry on learning, then eventually I will get to a point where I'm just better than them because I've learned and improved, or they quit. And that was always my opinion. It was just like, I'm always going to be where I want to be eventually. So let's just keep learning, keep improving, until I get to that point. And that was kind of just how I had the mindset this whole time. And like, there's definitely been times where it's like, okay, this is tough now. I don't really know where I'm going to get this money from to pay for that. And I don't really know like where if that end goal is actually there. And obviously then them insecurities come in at some points. But yeah, that overriding belief of like, if I keep improving, it will work has just always been the case. I can't really explain why.
Mm.
But yeah, and also fortunately, like I have been in times where like when there's been I've made no money from athletics, and like maybe I feel like I should have been making money from athletics. My outgoings are similar to people that are sponsored by Nike and funded and blah blah blah. I'm doing all the same stuff as them, training, seeing the same physio stuff. It's all expensive. Fortunately, in them times, I have had support from my family, which I understand some people haven't been able to do. I worked. This is how we know each other. I worked in this gym.
Yeah.
I actually worked in this gym the same. I was working at this gym whilst I won 2 world medals, which is stupid.
But it goes to show. I think a lot of people like don't know these things. So it's good for people to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think I get that it can be embarrassing to say stuff like that.
So like, it's not. I think it's commendable.
That's why
that's the sacrifice people don't want to have to make.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to, work on the desk of a gym. Not there's anything wrong with that, or that they don't want to have to work in a supermarket when they could be, earning more money, doing a job that requires more of them, that then wouldn't allow themselves to dedicate themselves to the life needed to be the best athlete that they can be. And most people, they don't choose the choice that you made because it's. I think it's the more difficult one.
Yeah, it can be obviously really hard. But then I fortunately had a trainer partner called Beth Dobbin who, as soon as I joined the group that I'm in now, she was like one of the more long-standing members of that group, and she was working like 50 plus hours as a receptionist at the track, and like 50 plus hours a week, picking up shifts here and there. She would finish training, run straight up, do her shift. She'd wake up at 5 a.m, go to the 6 a.m. shift, train afterwards. Like she was doing all these things, and I was just watching it whilst I was a student. So when I finished, she'd kind of instilled this like. Oh, I forgot to mention, she made it later on in her career as well. So she was like a bit older than traditional to win British champs and go to the Olympics and do all of these things. She did so many incredible things. And I just had her to watch as I was growing up as an athlete. And she kind of instilled so many things in me, probably without her even knowing, that I then just replicated myself later on. So yeah, having figures like that and stories that work is so important for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly inspirational to myself to hear stories like that. Like similar position to you. Like I started in the sport like very late, and I've got like the highest of aspirations. And like the people that are in the position that I want to be in are younger than me.
Yeah,
so like, it's a crazy position to be in. And like, and an outsider looking in, or the pessimist within you, is going to say like, why do you think like you're going to ascend to that level when like you're already past that point?
What do you think about like peaking in that aspect, in like physical and mental performance? What's your opinions on?
And like when you hit like your peak and your prime?
Because like obviously there's data that can allude to them things, but then knowing that is different is another thing.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I wanted to ask you about that in terms of like your age, at like how old you are now compared to like the average age of like somebody when they like make the Olympic team, for example, or compete at the Olympics. But to answer your question, like my mindset is like mentally, like, do you have like a mental prime? I think like that's one where it's very much dependent on you. And I don't think there's a clock on that as to like when you can like be at your most resilient, your sharpest, your most driven and will. Because I think it's down to your purpose, and like your purpose is there for you to find whenever you want to. It's just like, when are the stars going to align? What in your life is going to be that catalyst to make you say to yourself, like, my time is now, like, I'm going to go for this. So mentally, I think it's whenever you want it to be. Physically, like you said, there's data that's going to say, like, this is when your athletic prime is, this is when your peak is. But that data is a collection of, like, however many test subjects, data subjects. There's outliers. Like you said, you bloomed later. Like, me, myself as well. Like, I was never any kind of athlete growing up. I was terrible at football. Was incredibly slow, still incredibly slow now. Like, I'm going to ask you before we're done for sprinting tips. I'm trying my best to become mobile and to become fast. But I was never an athlete. Like my thing was like I started lifting weights. I suppose I started lifting weights when I was like 11, but then like really started lifting like heavy weights when I was maybe 14, 15, 16. So like my thing was like I was never any good at sports. So I was like, I just want to be like strong. Like at least that can be my thing. So that was the only thing I had in my pocket like throughout childhood, that by the time we got to the end of childhood and early adulthood, I was like fairly strong for
my age or like someone my size. But I was never an athlete, and it was only when like I started training jiu-jitsu in like my early 20s, persevering through that like I started to eventually feel like some kind of athlete. I'm never going to be the most athletically gifted person in the room, but like now I'm at a point where like I would confidently say, yeah, like I am an athlete. I feel like an athlete, like the way I move, but the results I get in competition like speak to that. It's been it's been a process, but the point of that was to say like yourself, I started and then like began to bloom much later than when someone would have said like this is when your time to bloom is. So I think physically, like in any sport, by the time, you know, if you're thick into your 30s, like the chances of you like reaching the top of any sports other than like snooker and darts, if we're calling those sports, but they are classed as sports, right? But if it's anything that requires athletic ability, like you're not going to be looking at the top of your sport like once you're into your late 30s. But I think anything before that, it's very much dependent on your genetics, the person you are, like the miles on your body, like the injuries you've had. And I think the most important thing is how well you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So like, I pride myself on being really dialed in with my nutrition, like, you know, the way I live, like doing things like, you know, red light therapy, even just things such as, you know, I'm a massive preacher in the power of the sun. Like everyone knows how much like I preach about the benefits of getting outside, getting fresh air. These are things that somebody that's just like a real natural athlete might be like, oh, that's never going to have a meaningful impact on my performance. Okay, like over the course of a week, maybe not. But like over the course of a decade, an athlete that's really taking care of themselves in a holistic way, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually as well, compared to an athlete that's living off of McDonald's and, you know, sleeping, you know, going to bed at 4 a.m. That's going to make a difference for a lot of people over the course of a long time period. So I'd say that's like the main variables. Obviously, there's a genetic component, but how well you take care of yourself is going to change when you hit your physical peak. What about you? What do you think?
I think like, mentally, realistically, you get more experience as you get older. You're probably better later as soon as you retire.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point.
Then physically, and like a sport like athletics is very like, to be fair, it definitely is with yours as well. It's very physically demanding. You pick up injuries, like you're pushing yourself to the max a lot of the time. So then, unfortunately for a lot of people, their cap on the sport isn't chosen by them, and like that is a blessing if you can finish on a high and be healthy and etc. etc. Touch wood, that happens to all of us. But yeah, in terms of peak, like it goes up and down with when you're healthy, and if you can stay consistently healthy for a while, then you're going to peak then. If you can't, it'll be later on, as long as you don't stop. Like I think there's so many things that come into it. It's just as long as you're, like you said, you're living sustainably, the sport can be sustainable for you.
Talk to me about like the process of changing from a 100-meter sprinter to a 400-meter sprinter. Like, how different is it beyond like the obvious? Like you're having to run 4 times as fast. So like there's an endurance component to it that isn't there with 100 meters. But yeah, like what are the differences, like physiologically speaking, and what was the deciding factor in you changing events? Was it just simply like you were doing your 100 meters, you were doing your 400 meters, and your 400 meter times were just so much better than your hundreds?
So I'd never done a 400 meters before 2021, and I'd been competing since.
Like, we say like never, like in a competitive setting, you never ran 400 meters.
I'd never ran it in training.
What?
I'd never ran it.
What do you mean? Like, you never ran 400 meters?
I never ran a 400 meters.
I suppose that makes sense. Like, because as a 100-meter sprinter, like,
we wouldn't do any longer.
Further than 100 meters?
No. So
because a marathon runner doesn't run further than a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like growing up, I would, my group would do like, really old school conditioning tactics. My coach was older. Like I don't know, he was like 60s at that point. He's like in his 70s now. So yeah, he's a very traditional athletics coach, which was a good thing for me because I got all the bases covered.
Okay. What's that old school conditioning like?
So like, I was going to say, so he would, when we got so the season in athletics is obviously summer primarily. You'd have a teeny bit of time off your off season, then you'd get back into training around like late September, October time. It's kind of the same for most people. And then in that period, he would basically do like long runs, like on grass, and like we do like 5-minute runs and reps of that and stuff like that. So I had ran over 400 meters in my life.
Okay. But that's also like they don't really do that now.
Yeah, but on a track, I'd never ran further than, to be fair, in that group, probably like 300 meters. And then when I came to uni, I was very much a 100-meter runner / 200 meters. And at that point, my coach, again, we probably wouldn't run further than 300 meters a few times a year.
What about warm-ups? Did you not like?
Yeah, so
I'm completely naive. Like, I assume like even as sprinters, like when I go to the track, and obviously I'm not even an amateur. Like even when I'm doing my 100-meter sprints, I'll like do like a mile warm-up run. Jog around the track.
Just to clarify, I mean like sprint.
Okay, sorry.
I mean like try and be faster. Distance. So like I had done like my warm-up will be like 400 to 600 meters jog with an hour's worth of stuff after or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the first, it was like kind of, so I did 100s and 200s, and then so yeah, as you said, there's like an endurance element to the 400s. But when I was doing like 100s and 200s, we noticed that like so even in 100, obviously you'd not obviously, but you'd reach your top speed around like 60 meters or so, or before ideally, and then it's basically the game of like who can decelerate the least. So like by the end of 100 meters, everyone's decelerating, but it's who can decelerate the least. So like when Bolt overtakes people, it's because he's decelerating less than someone else, not that he's speeding up. We just noticed with me that like my best part of the race was always at the end, and I'd be able to hold everything better. Even in a 200, I would claw people down rather than get out and then stay ahead. And then in training, I was always better at the longer reps. But we'd never really thought any further than that. It was just that was just what I was good at. And I would even say to people like, if I ever have to do 400 meters, I'm like, if this doesn't work 1s and 2s and I have to try 4s, I'm going to quit. Like I said that I would say that to people back then.
Why did you say that? Just the idea of like
the idea of doing it. Yeah, I just love the 100. I love that, the glory of it. Like I'd loved all that.
Yeah, well, I suppose that is like that's like the main event of sprinting, right?
Yeah. It's the creme de la creme. Like you're the fastest in the world. I just love that type of stuff. So yeah, I was just be like, oh, if I have to run around this whole track, like I'm quitting. But yeah, then COVID happened, and I was separated from my coach for a bit, and I remember it being like I was doing a lot of longer reps, like because I wasn't doing speed like without my coach and things like that. And then it got to a point where when I returned with my coach, he was like, "Oh, this season, like the training hasn't been the best preparation for it because of lockdowns and things like that." So he was like, maybe we could give 4s a try. He just floated the idea.
Just offhand.
Yeah, and he was like, he kind of expected me, I think he expected me to like say no because I literally hadn't trained for it. And he was basically like, and he hadn't trained anyone for 4s at that point either. So he was like, it's going to be kind of trial and error, like working out your race plan and things like that. And then I was just like, yeah, I'm down. And then we entered the first race, and then literally like, I got to about 200 meters, so halfway around the track. And I was like, this is so easy. I was running and I was like, this is so easy. I could definitely finish this strong. So my plan was to kick around like 120 in that race, 120 to go. And I just started kicking from about 200 meters to go.
So what do you mean by kick?
Sorry, jump in.
I think I know what you mean. Because I've heard people say this before, but yeah, give me the explanation.
So there's different energy systems that your body works on to move, obviously. And then one of them being like if you don't mind me getting to the science, like the ATP,
please do.
phosphocreatine system. That's like 5 to 7 seconds. So like that first part of the race, you basically get free energy. So you go out as hard as you can. And then after that, you're kind of playing a game of like, as I said before, how can you keep this momentum and not decelerate the most, and so you don't have to accelerate at different points and things like that to maintain them other energy systems. So yeah, like get out as fast as you can, and then my plan at that point was to maintain the speed, and then kick with 120 meters to go. Your speed's obviously not going to accelerate to what it was before, but it's just to give you some more momentum for the rest of the race.
Okay. So you have like an started race acceleration to max speed. Then like it's a race of not decelerating as little as possible, and then like almost getting like a second wind, or like you're kind of saving a little bit to then do the kick, which is like you speed up a little bit.
Yeah, so people can run it in a bunch of different ways, which is one of the reasons I really like the fours, that you can have different tactics. But at the time, we just wanted to simplify it, and that was what we were kind of running with, of just trying not to decelerate, and then because I was a 200-meter runner, I was quite good at running off the bend. So I wanted to use that strength, and like that was the part that I was going to try and kick. But yeah, in this race, I was like, screw it. Let's kick now, because I was like, this is so easy. So then I just started running. It wasn't even a gradual thing. I just started running, and you shouldn't do that. You just shouldn't.
It's supposed to be like...
It's supposed to be a gradual... Yeah, so I was like, all right, let's go. So then I remember like one of my training partners was watching it, and he said at the time, he was like, why is he doing that? And my dad was in the stands. I think he was a bit worried when my legs just started going. But I'm thinking, I'm fine, like, let's just go. And then I literally came off onto the home straight, saw the finish line, and I was like, I'm not making that. Like, it's too far away. You know, one of them films where everything's just moving away.
Yeah.
It just felt like that, and then everyone starts coming past me, and then I more or less walked over the finish line. I was so, like, not intentionally, I was so drained. I couldn't even pick, my legs were behind me.
Oh, forgive me, I thought this was a glory story. I thought you could
say... I was going to say, my first 400 metres was horrific.
Yeah.
It was... considering what happened, I'd ran like a low 48 seconds, but like no one's winning anything special with a low 48 seconds.
What's like world record, Olympic record?
So Olympic record is 43. World record is 33:03, and Olympic record by Wade van Niekerk.
Wait. So
43 seconds. 43.03.
Okay.
Which is
wasn't
ridiculous. It wasn't bad in terms of like UK rankings. At least people knew that I'd ran. And then, so my coach was like, all right, we said it was going to be trial and error. Let's try this again. 2 weeks later, tried it again, cut off half a second. And I think I was like so happy about it. I celebrated across the line. And it still wasn't, unfortunately, fast enough to make an impact. I needed like...
But an improvement.
It was an improvement.
When did you kick on that one?
That one was like, I'd obviously learned from my mistakes. I kicked at the right time, but I just still wasn't like fit enough to maintain the speed for long enough. So
you
like
still working on the endurance.
Yeah, aspect. So I'd ran, because I hadn't trained for it again. So I'd ran the race how I'd wanted it, but it just didn't turn out. Oh, I forgot. I can't remember what the original question was. Now I'm just explaining the journey.
No.
But it was from why I went to 1-2-4s. After the first 400 meters, the first race, so I had sprained my ankle a couple months earlier in the year. Just like, I think it was from a pothole, I could sprain my ankle. And then after the first 400 meters, I'd finished the race, ankle's fine, and then went to do a cool down jog. And because my legs were so jelly from the race, I was so fatigued, my ankle just flopped. Like I had no like strength in my legs. Ankle flopped, sprained it again, but not not as bad. Yeah, straight after the race. So I was okay to run after a week or so, but that's just showed how dead my legs were. So I finished the second race with my ankle a little bit taped up. It was better, and then I raced another 2 weeks after that and cut off another half a second. So then I ended up being like a low 47 runner, which at that point in the UK put me higher than I thought I was going to be at the time in the rankings, and kind of just like in a conversation that I didn't really expect to be in. I came second at my age group, under 23s at the time, age group national champs, and that was my fifth 400 meter race of all time. So it just seemed like it just was working quite well. Yeah. So then after that year, me and my coach decided, all right, let's train for it this time. And then after that, the next year I made a Europeans team, and we won gold in the relay. So it was literally just from that one leap of faith year that I was like, let's just try it. So the next year, it changed in the trajectory of my career, really.
So you said after that, you and your coach decided you were going to train for it this time. So what did that training look like? How was it different to 100 meter training? So
at the start, it was quite similar, to be fair. It was very much like we wanted to keep the speed that I had from being a 200 meter sprinter. And
that was surely like your unique selling point.
Almost, right? That was my strength.
Your key advantage.
Yeah. So realistically, at that point I was quicker than I think all of them, bar Matt Hudson-Smith, who was the top over sprint distances. So that was kind of I needed to keep that special part of the race. So we kind of just trained like, I want to say like a 300-meter runner. So like I would do 200-meter sessions and then maybe just add on an extra rep or do a teeny bit extra distance. At that time, that's kind of how it felt to me, as the approach was to like keep that speed element and really focus on that speed, but then just make sure I had a bit more endurance than I did before. And then over time, as I started to build more tolerance, my coach started to add in more maybe specialized or specific 400-meter training that is longer reps and really building that endurance up. But yeah, that, like I said, that wasn't until maybe a little bit later when I actually had that tolerance.
And what about like, I suppose this is a whole other topic area in itself, but off of the track, like in terms of S&C, is it drastically different between a 100-meter sprinter and a 400-meter sprinter?
That's a good question. From what I know training-wise, it hasn't been that much different. We still do similar things, S&C. I'm trying to think if there is any difference that I've changed since. I don't actually think I've had any difference from training, because to be fair, you are still running. Like I'm still gonna use 400 meters. You start on the bend, so I'm not gonna get to that max speed that I would if I was starting on the straight, just because then you get the benefit of the straight line. But you're still trying to get to your max speed as quick as possible, so you're still running really fast. And then say, just for numbers' sake, the only race that I have the most accurate splits from is a relay race I did at World Champs 2 years ago in 2023. The split was 43.89, and I went through the first 200 meters from a rolling start, so you're not from blocks because it's a relay. I went through that in 20.9, which is quicker than my PB over 200 meters. So like you're still running at these high speeds anyway. You're just maintaining it for a whole lap. So to answer the question, that the speeds you're running at's quite similar. So a lot of the training actually is quite similar. It's just them. You might have an extra session where you're doing a speed endurance when the 100-meter guys are doing like what they call speed endurance, but it's really like 120s, 120 meters or 150 meters or something like that.
It's all so relative, isn't it? Like endurance to a 100-meter sprinter, like you said, like 400 meters to a 100-meter sprinter is like a marathon.
They will never do it. Like I literally back in the day would never have done it.
Yeah.
I would have done anything to not do that. Have you ever run? Did you do track in school or anything?
No, I've never been a sprinter. Like at sports day, I don't know why, no one else, year 7 and year 8 sports day, no one else must have wanted to do the 200s. So like in my form group, I got assigned the 200 meters, which was just like the most idiotic decision. At
the time, that's a weird distance.
How do you
run it?
There was just no, that's what I mean. I think it was just because nobody else wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got assigned the 200 meters 2 years in a row and like came dead last both years. Don't ask me for times; I have no idea what they were, and I'm glad I don't know what they were. And then for year 9 and 10, because we didn't have sports day in year 11 because we'd already finished by that point. In year 9 and 10, so that's what I mean. Like the extent of my track was like 1 day a year sports day. I never like did track sessions, ran track, like PE or anything. But then year 9 and 10. I managed to secure 800 meters because I knew I was a better distance runner.
Okay.
And then I got silver and bronze in the 800 meters.
We'll take that.
Oh, I'll take that. I still got the medals. And until I started competing in jiu-jitsu, they were the only medals I ever had when it came to athletics, like anything, any sports medals, anything. Like I had plenty of like public speaking trophies and debating trophies. But yeah, like my silver and my bronze for 800 meters on sports day in year 9 and year 10 were my only sports based medals for a long time.
I always preach the benefits of sports day because of how it started my story. That is another clear piece of proof. Teachers should be careful when they're skipping sports day because it's raining and things like that.
I had fond memories of it, and I remember like I actually I trained. Like, I suppose I did more training again than anyone else because I can't imagine anybody else trained for sports day. But the 2 months leading up, I'd like run. I didn't even track how far it was. I'd just run around my block because my block's like a circular block. I think it was probably like a mile, it was probably like double the distance. But I'd just run around there as fast as I could. So I like even trained for a bit because I always had the competitive spirit. Like I wanted to win. I wanted to win something. Yeah, so I didn't get my gold medal, but I got my silver and my bronze. But that is the extent of my athletics experience until I decided.
Recently.
Yeah, until recently, my recent unsuccessful foray. I decided last year. Obviously, like I've done like a lot of long distance running at this point. Again, not competitively. They're just ridiculous, ultra endurance side quests that I like to do, which I think have done. They haven't done physically. They haven't done my legs that good, but they've improved my aerobic fitness no end, and most importantly, they've developed my mental resilience, which is actually translated over a lot to competing in jiu-jitsu. So I've gained lots of benefits from them, but they have also shot my knees a bit as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But so I've been doing lots of long distance running, like marathon distances and above. But last year I decided, okay, like I know I can run until the end of time, so to speak. I know I've got the endurance. Like my weak point as an athlete is like my speed, my explosivity. Like again, like I'm strong, endurance, yeah, they're set. But speed and explosivity, I'm never going to be like that's never going to be my advantage, like it is for you. But it needs to be better. So that's when I started doing like my 100-meter sprints, and like it's not going well.
So you're still doing it?
Yeah, not most weeks. Obviously, I have to like modulate it around my other training, and like it's not a priority. But yeah, like I try and do it so like my 3 big S&C sessions each week. I'll do like a upper body focused lifting day, like a lower body focused lifting day. And before that used to be like just traditional squats or deadlifts, lunges, like kind of traditional bodybuilding movements. Whereas like now I'll do like box jumps, like plyometrics. So like those 2, and then the third one is like a track session. That always used to be like my long run, and now like I've switched out that long run for track. At the moment though, like with my schedule, I'm not actually able to make it to the track because I have it like scheduled in on a Sunday evening when the track's closed. So I'm just like running up and down my street.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's approximately 50 meters. So like I'm doing like 50-meter sprints each week.
Your neighbours must think, what's going on?
Yeah, in the dead of night. It's like 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening. And I'm just leathering it past, walking back down. I'll do like 15 of those, and then I'll do that's like I'm just completely like bro sciencing it. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'll do like 50 meters, and then I'll like move on to the next street along, which is like a long street. Yeah. And I'll run up there and walk back down. I think that's probably like between 400 and 600 meters. I'll do 4 of those to finish. Yeah, give me some tips on like.
Yeah, send me next time you're doing it. Send me what you're doing.
Yeah,
maybe take a couple of vids.
Yeah. I need to do. That's the problem, because like obviously at the track you've got the clock, so like you can see like how fast, like even though you don't have someone timing you, you know like how fast you're running, like bar like a few milliseconds. But with my street sprints, like I can't carry I don't want to carry my phone with me as I'm going and like hit stop as I'm going over the line. So like I don't even know what my times are. I'm just like judging in my mind. Oh yeah, I think that one was faster than the last one, based on how I'm feeling. But like, do you have what are like your generic tips for somebody that wants to get better at sprinting, get faster? Talking like top end speed.
Get faster. The first thing, the first tip I always say for anyone is like, I don't know how into Kobe Bryant you are.
Oh, I love Kobe.
My inspiration. You ever heard him say it's an interview where he says he said it a few times, but he says to be curious. So if you ever heard him say that, he explains it, and it's basically just like the idea of like delve into something, you want to find out more, you ask this question, ask that. If someone ever says how do you get faster, I always just say like, break it down for yourself, be curious, Google how to get faster. When it comes up with this type of technique, Google why would you use that technique, and why does this S&C work, and blah, blah, blah. So not to give you a bit of a dickheady answer.
No, you're right. You're like,
my first thing is like I would try and like actually learn, because there's science behind sprinting. I would just try and learn why some people are fast. What did Bolt do that make him fast? And why is his knees up here when he runs? And like, why are the arms so exaggerated? Or like, what angle did their arms hit? You can even like, I used to just stand in the mirror and just practice doing that over and over. And then like, eventually when you're running, you start doing that. How to accelerate? Why do they start from blocks? Like, and like Kobe Bryant, obviously, you just ask the questions that it's like your brain thinks of.
Yeah. And
I know you. I know how into that stuff you are. And so I think if you
problem solve it.
Yeah, like you would just, and then so that's what I did when I was like 16. I was thinking like, I want to be fast. Let me just learn how to be fast. The amount of times I was like young and probably typed in like how to run how to run fast. Sounds so stupid, but then eventually
That's how you get there, isn't it?
yeah, and then you end up reading something that says like front side mechanics, and then to someone that's never ran, you think, what is front side mechanics? And that's what I would have thought at the time. And I'd Google what is front side mechanics, and then it would come up, and then you'd learn about parts of front side mechanics and what is that, and so then eventually you just have this scope, and then next time you go to the track, you'll probably be doing drills. You'll probably be doing
That's it. Yeah, because I'm just going there and just giving it Healf lever, trying to get past.
like not so like say like my like if I ever say I go to the track with my friends or something, then like one of the first things I'll show them is like an A skip, which is like one of the basic drills you do in track. So for an actual point, I would probably start with learning how to do some drills. Okay. So like then you'd learn sprint mechanics, and then probably more or less instantly, even if you're not fitter, you'll be quicker.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense, because I'm sure like my form. I know my running form is awful.
Yeah.
Like my running form, like over distance, is awful. It's like sprinting. I can't even imagine.
Why? What's wrong? How did the knees get? What was that, a specific race, or how did you hurt your knees?
Oh, it's just really like I
But the hills didn't really help.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, and this like took like 6 months training. I ran the 15 tallest mountains in Wales. The goal was to do it in 10 hours. Ended up doing it in 10 hours 55 minutes. But yeah, so like for 6 months every week, I was doing like a marathon distance, like up and down mountains.
6 months every week.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Not a marathon. Well, no, we worked up to a marathon. I worked up to a marathon distance over the course of 6 months. I'm trying to remember.
Still.
Yeah. Between half a marathon and a marathon distance every week, for 6 months for that, and then I kept the longer runs, because then they were just kind of like part of my training schedule. I kept the longer runs into my usual, training schedule week to week for grappling. Like I'd do at least like a 6-7 mile run every Sunday. And then last year, I didn't even really do any training for it other than like my 6 mile run, like every week. I ran supporting my mate Ash Kane.
Oh yeah.
He ran he ran from Land's End to John O'Groats, cycled back down, and kayaked back up. But like I did a few days of the running with him.
I remember seeing that.
To support him, and like it was, the challenge was called Ultraman. He was like doing over an ultra, or doing an ultra marathon every day, which is over a marathon distance. So every day he was running at least 27 miles, and I did 3 days, so it was like 88 miles, I think it was, in 3 days. We're like,
no joke.
no preparation. No preparation.
Did that hurt at the time or after?
Yeah, both. Yeah. I'm still paying for it now.
Really?
Yeah. No, it's
worth it though.
Yeah, worth it. Yeah, good memories, great days. Again, like the mental resilience you build from like anything like ultra related, because it just sucks, man. Like that is the most difficult component about it. Like the key determinant, like as a sprinter, is like your speed, explosivity. I think like a different kind of mental resilience or like mental acuity is needed for something like that, because you know like it all comes down to 10 seconds or 40 seconds, and like you have to be on in that, and that's a different kind of mental battle in terms of the pressure that comes with it, and that's like akin to grappling as well. Like you've got to be perfect in these next 6 minutes, whereas like in like an ultra marathon, in like an ultra challenge, well, depending on what time you set yourself, you may think I need to be perfect, but the main thing is like, oh my god, this is going to be so long, I've got to get through it. It's that resilience.
Is that why you want to do it, even though it sucks? I'm sure people ask you like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's a lot. I do know. I like going to that dark place. I learn a lot about myself there. I learn a lot about, the word I would use is God. Like I feel like I learn a lot about God, which is I learn a lot about the world, the universe, existence itself. I feel like the existential truths I learn from pushing myself through something like that, they're invaluable, because of how dark it is, like how hard it is, like the mental battle you have to go through. It takes you places, and it's different. Even as tough as grappling is, training and competing, I learn things mentally from competing in jiu-jitsu that I don't from like the ultra marathon side of things, but then I learn something like very key and distinctive from the ultra marathon side of things that I haven't been able to find from doing anything else physically. It's just that enduring aspect, knowing you've got so long left and you just have to keep going. There's no variance, like it's just one foot in front of the other, and that monotony over time and the pain that you're accumulating over time, it takes you to a dark place, and you learn a lot there.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'd like to do a marathon at some point.
Yeah,
maybe not ultra.
Yeah, don't do it, for God's sake. Don't do it until you're done with your sprinting career.
Oh no.
Yeah.
They just look fun. Like the culture of like city marathons.
Yes, they're very popular.
I'd like to be involved in one. Yeah, they're very popular.
High rocks. Wait, it's marathon running and high rocks.
Yeah. I'm waiting for athletics to get its time.
As you probably have. That's it. Jiu-jitsu is kind of like exploded, but it's exploded in its little niche bubble. And like compared to high, jiu-jitsu is here, and then high rocks is like
athletics gets its moment every 4 years.
For
a month, and then it goes.
Talk to me about that, because that's How do you? I mean, suppose go into the logistics of it, but then as well, like mentally, what it's like knowing that, like, you're basically just trying to make that Olympic team like every 4 years. Like your chances kind of like every 4 years. Like, talk to me about the process of that.
So I never, if I'm being honest, growing up, I never pictured like the Olympics as being like the be all and end all of sport. I don't know if that's because I was in football and did track at the same time, or I'm not sure what it is. And I was just picturing being a sports person in general. But like when I got more into track, my goal was never to make the Olympics. It was to be like the best in the country and then compete in the world and then represent Great Britain at Worlds, Europeans, Olympics, blah, blah, blah. It was never, do you know what I mean? It wasn't specifically Olympics until I went to Europeans and went to Worlds and medaled at both. And the Olympics was the year after, 2024. And then all I cared about was making the Olympic team. And that's when I realized, that like the closer you got to it, the bigger everything was. The rings were everywhere in the country, and like everyone was gearing up to watch the Olympics. And like I realized, this is what people are on about. Like everyone else only cares about this one thing. Well, not only cares, but like it gets so much more of a buzz at that time. And then I realized why people made such a big deal of it. But yeah, before that, so I was training my whole life really kind of just thinking, and still do kind of think now, that like the rest of the sport was what I was aiming for, just to be the best the whole time, which has probably helped me realistically.
It seems like it definitely probably took the pressure off, right? Like feeling like, the Olympics is coming up in 4 years' time. Like everything I'm doing now is for that. Like you basically did do everything for that without having to like think about you're doing everything.
Yeah, like I've always said, like I will like think about a race in down the road from me the same way that I'll think about putting on a GB vest and competing in front of 30,000. Like I will get as nervous. I'll stand on the line like as buzzing, as much adrenaline. Like try as hard.
Genuinely, like you feel it. You feel exactly the same.
Wow. The main difference for me is probably like when you walk out and see the crowd. I like seeing the crowd, so maybe I get a bit more excited. But in terms of like the race component, like I will prep the same. Like I'll do all the same things the night before. My warm up will be as intense. Like. And I've always kind of just had that same thing. So like even the first time I competed in a stadium, I remember thinking like this feeling so familiar because I'd just done this every time.
Really? Wow.
So yeah, in terms of like every 4 years, that idea has never really been in my mindset yet. As I said, until last year, that was all I wanted, to the point that like it was definitely unhealthy for me. That like that mindset of just all I wanted was to get the Olympic rings. To be fair, I'm not like all I wanted was the tat. I wanted to get the tattoo. I didn't really care where or when. I just wanted to make the team. And then, spoiler alert, I didn't make the team. And then it kind of like reframed what I see as like success in the sport. Because for a whole year, I just literally had this one goal. I didn't set any other goal for the year. I didn't care how I made the team or what. I just wanted to make the team. And I failed that. So then, in failing that, it like over time, obviously it hurt, but then, and I'm not gonna lie, it was only last year. Like there's still a lot of pain there, but like it does like it did definitely make me reframe how I see success, and it's no longer like make this team, get on that podium. It's no longer that. It's kind of like my journey. But that, to be fair, like the not making the team and like having been injured that whole year and still trying my best till the end is my proudest achievement so far. So, and that I class as a success. So like it's reframed how I see that whole thing. So now in the next 4 years, when Olympics is in 2028, I'm going back to like what I just said before, and like I am an athlete, and that was what I dreamed to be, and I still want to just be the best all 4 years rather than just that one time.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long way to go around.
No, not at all. And not to press on, the pain point, as you said, but in terms of, like you said, you didn't make the team. How is that decided? Is it just strictly based on times? How many slots is there, like for the 400-meter event? Do they just take one guy and then a backup guy, or like is there a number of guys, and how do they decide it?
It's, to be fair, it's quite confusing. So very like it's a valid question for even people that are in the sport. And so there's a selection policy that will get released, like the year before the games, or like earlier in the year, and like in all of that is detailed how you make the team. So and most of the time, like traditionally, we'll have a British trials, and there'll be 2 spaces for each event. So individual, there'll be 2 spaces for the 400 meters, and then if you have the qualifying time, which last year and is now 45:00, so you have to run 44 something for the 400 meters. Then if you place in the top 2 at British champs, you get an automatic invite to the games. So world champs, Olympics, whatever it is, they'll have similar criteria to make the team. And then, or they introduced a way that you can get it through like World Athletics points, which is basically like as you can imagine, like FIFA is for football. It's like the whole world's organization, and like you get points on certain races, and not like that stuff gets really complicated. Agents come into that mix and things like that, and like
I was going to say, it's
part
less
straightforward.
Of it, like, is political the right word? Like, it's part
so
of
much,
yeah,
to the point that I probably wouldn't even go into it. Like,
because
there's a lot of complaints around that type of stuff.
It's not as basic as these are the 2 fastest people in the country. That's who we're taking. It's
so like each year, if you're like a fan of athletics, you get like you'll see a bunch of athletes complain, a bunch of our fans complain about not making the team, and etc. So it does get quite complicated.
It should be. But I mean, I'm saying the obvious, but it should be purely based on meritocracy. For something like, you know what I mean? I guess like for a sport like jiu-jitsu or football, like who makes the England squad, like there's room for subjectivity because there's not a direct metric to measure success against. Like someone could make the argument, oh, hang on, I don't think we should take this I know nothing about football. I don't think we should take this centre-back, to the World Cup. We should take this guy because I think we're going to end up playing, Israel, and he's got the style to defend against their offense better. Like something like sprinting, like it's a direct metric. The person who runs the distance the fastest is the person that is going to do the best.
Yeah.
So on that basis, like there shouldn't be variance to it. In my mind.
There's not it's not variance, but there is like biases towards how people can get them points, or for example, or like the trials method. Say you're injured at trials, some people might get a pass, or there's loads of situations. But like America, for example, theirs is like first past the post. So like at their US trials, if you come in the top 3, you go to the event. It hinges as long as you have the qualifying time, you just go. But so if you don't turn up on that day and run well, you don't go. So then sometimes they miss like their biggest stars.
Yeah, pros and cons to both.
Yeah, but so in the UK, I've 400 meters has a relay, 4x4. So in that, it's a bit more the relay coach of Great Britain has more say in that, because obviously there's different legs and there's different people work on different legs, so there's a bit more that comes into it. It can't just be the 6 fastest that go or whatever, and 4 fastest that run, even though most of the time it probably is, but there's more that goes into getting picked. So yeah, for the Olympics, for example, I was a reserve for the relay. But I was a non-traveling reserve, so I stayed at home, and then there was reserves that were there that can be used at any time, and then if anything happens, I would have gone, but as I just said, I obviously didn't go. But so there's it's quite simple because there's a selection policy, but then there's so much that goes into it, obviously.
Yeah. Talk to me. We skipped over that really. Talk to me about the feeling of medaling at the Europeans and the Worlds, like to reach like that point that you're kind of looking to for so long. Like, what was that experience like?
The Europeans was like the most content I probably ever felt.
In
I say
athletics
that
or in life?
I'm like probably in
Yeah.
life. I can't remember being in school and how that felt, but like I'm one of them people that
And you say content.
I say content very specifically because like I'm one of the people that I've always been striving to mainly like learn, improve in everything I care about, and in turn that means I'm striving for success, in my opinion. So I'm quite a sucker for one of them like I always want more mindsets, which in past just hasn't been healthy for me. Doesn't normally lead to like positive feelings if you just always want more. But I remember being at the Europeans, and it's like you have a holding camp beforehand, and like I just got a full suitcase full of GB kit. I'm like sitting on the table with a bunch of my idols, like sitting chatting over dinner before the race. And this was like one of the biggest teams they brought in years to like a games like that, and like a champs like that. And so like it was fun. It was like a bunch of people that I just met. I was making friends, like, and there's nothing to do in the day. You don't have any responsibilities. I was actually working at H&M at the time, and I'd quit because they couldn't give me the time off. So didn't have a job. I'm there, like nothing to do in the day, just chilling, like in my GB kit. I remember just feeling like, you know what, I've done well here. This was my second year in 400, and that was like one time I was really content in the fact that like I have actually done what I set out to do. Which is rare for people in sports. So like I remember at the time like telling my friends I'm very aware that like I'm happy with what's just happened. But the issue is when that happened is I realized it opened this whole door for me of like making teams, running in stadiums, wearing GB kit to the point that like in that next year I was like, okay, how can we do that again? And I think that was the start of where my mindset started to change from constant improvement to how can I make this team and how can I make that team. And
Chasing
I think
the dragon.
eventually that turned into a bad thing. But yeah, so when I got to Worlds, the next year it was very much more like I'm here for business now. Like I've been here for a year and like I know a bit more about how this works, and like I actually want to prove myself and be one of the best. And like looking back, it was that small period where I was like that was beneficial because I was only picked for the relay and I ended up running the third split in the world, third fastest split in the world. It's one of the fastest splits Britain's ever had. So having that mindset did work, but then when that carried on throughout the year of 2024, and I was just so on it all the time, and I just wanted to make the Olympics. As I said before, it just ended up being too much, I think, and not as healthy and beneficial for the long term. But yeah, so I say that all to say, like, around that time of Europeans was like pure, this was my first time, and like I think that's how I would want everything to feel from now, and like really enjoy the moment, and like go to the after party, live it up, like all that, come home, really enjoy it, like go to all the events and like all that stuff. Like I think for me that's what like this, I want this life to be. I want it to be like, I want to enjoy it while I'm here, and like learn from my mistakes, be sensible all the time, train hard and all that stuff. But like I want to look back at it and think of it how I look back at the Europeans time as a whole, and like that enjoyment and content aspect of it, rather than the dog eat dog, like just success and just medal and all that stuff. Like it's cool, but I would rather have that other feeling.
That's something I really empathise with, that because I've gone through periods, and like you said, like necessary periods that really serve you, where you're in that disciplined mindset, you're really goal orientated, like, you know, speaking from my own point of view here, like you really push into the darkness, you become puritanical in the way that you live and think, and it does serve you. But what I've been able to find really just over the past 12 months is I've found a way to be able to compete, still put myself under the same pressure, still perform whilst just enjoying life more as well. And it's so difficult to do.
Do you think sorry to kind of cut you off, but then do you think it's almost a sacrifice that you make to enjoy more of your life, to get away from that mindset that you've had this whole time of, because this is something that I've kind of battled with. So say I heard this athlete. I went to this Q&A, and these two athletes gave this really nice talk, and they both said the same advice of like, I wish I'd enjoyed more whilst I was doing it. But they're both very highly acclaimed athletes, and my question to them was kind of like, do you think you would have done as well if you enjoyed the whole thing, rather than being like you were?
It's a really good
So what do
question,
you think?
isn't it?
Yeah,
I want to believe you can.
same.
We're both just reassuring one another. I do want to believe you can. I was going to say something. It's just slipped my mind. This isn't what I was going to say, but it was a thought I had just a couple of moments ago. What you're talking about, like when you're in that mindset, that disciplined, goal orientated, for me, dark mindset. Someone gave me a great metaphor. It's like burning coal. Like coal's like a really good fuel source. Like it's really potent. Like you can set the world afire with coal. But it's finite. Like you keep burning it, it'll run out at some point. Like it's not an endless supply, and it's toxic as well. There's toxic byproducts from it. So like when you're in that mindset, when you're approaching it with that intensity and the enjoyment's not there, it's like burning coal in the sense that it can be really potent and it can take you, very far places. It can get you the success that you want. But you can't use that forever because it'll run out, you'll burn out, or it'll just end up consuming you. And as well, there's toxic byproducts that come from it. Like when I'm in that mindset, I'm not, as fun and jovial to be around. I'm not as kind to my friends and family. Like I don't have as much time for other people. I'm more selfish. It's tunnel vision, and all that matters is the goal, achieving that goal, and it comes at the expense of everything else. Like, last year for me was a big, was proof that I am able to enjoy life more whilst still keeping that intensity. I feel like I did gain that proof last year, and I think part of it is like a lot of people have the problem of they don't have enough discipline. So like they have to put themselves through that puritanical regimen, through that discipline regimen. They have to put themselves through the suck to mentally callous and condition themselves to know, okay, like this is what it's supposed to be like. It's supposed to be tough, and I've got to get accustomed with this feeling. But if you're a really goal-orientated person, and if you've put yourself through that, I think you can get out the other side where you're like, okay, like I've been through that. I know I have that mental toughness, that mental resilience. I am actually able to enjoy things more now. And like you can almost feel a bit of guilt. Like, how am I enjoying myself? How am I laughing and joking like 2 days before a comp? Like last year or 2 years ago, like I was like not talking to anybody. I was just like staring, sitting on the sofa, just staring at the wall, just visualizing 24/7. And like, now I'm having like dinner with my family and friends. Like I'm just having a lot of fun, but like I still feel as dialed in. Is that possible? And the answer I came to last year was yes, like because I'd been through that process.
I like that.
I'm kind of picking it as I'm talking about it.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me is like I've obviously sacrificed loads of things during them periods, and as an athlete in life in general, but as an athlete especially, everyone says that you sacrifice these things. One of the things that like it's really important not to sacrifice for me is, I would say for everyone, is family and friends. Sacrifice everything else. Sacrifice like the beer that you have when you're with your family and friends, but don't sacrifice being with them. And I think like in some of them times, I may have sacrificed the wrong things. I've sacrificed everything, but in turn sacrificed the things I shouldn't have been. But I don't want to say that and make it sound like I was some recluse and not. I have always seen my family and friends, but like now more so, I do want to make it a thing of, if that is something that has to be sacrificed, like that I've trained with people that live really far from their family and can't see them. For me personally, if like that is something that has to be sacrificed, I don't know if it's worth it for me. And that's just a conversation that I think actually is worth having. Like if you have to be in this like dog eat dog mindset all the time and be that focused and throw away all these things and like not being enjoying it as much, is that thing worth it for you? And sometimes you need to take a step back and think, that actually is it. A lot of the time then you'll end up finding this medium that hopefully we can work through.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. I've tasted it. I want to believe that.
Yeah,
that it's possible to be disciplined.
but like you were
be
saying,
intense.
it's cool to like. I think now, even when it's like if I see a podcast of two guys talking about how they're locked in, they're doing all this stuff, they're eating, sleeping like this, I don't feel any type of way because I know I can do that. I've done that. I've done that for probably longer than you've done that. Like I don't have that ego response of like, oh, I don't feel jealous in any way or any of that because I know I have that in me. So yeah, like kind of like you were saying, I like the fact that I've tasted that.
Yeah.
And now I can play with that and find where I want to sit and still succeed how I think success is and
not feel guilty because you're having more fun doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like we know we've been through that dark period, like however it's categorized, however it feels for you. Like, it's good to know that you've been through that. But then, like, if you're able to get the same results whilst having more fun, like, why not have more fun? Like, and for me, like, I know there's like the slave driver in the back of my mind that's like telling myself, like, you shouldn't be having this much fun. It's like, wait a second, like, why not? Like, if I'm still performing the way that I need to perform, if I'm still, the moment I step on that mat, if I'm locked in the way I need to be, I perform the way that I need to be, I'm physically fine-tuned, mentally on it, like spiritually in the place I need to be, like, and I can have fun, like, whilst doing it.
Yeah.
What? That's a no-brainer. Why not? But like, there's that voice that, you know, for Type A people that are naturally those work individuals. I think there's always that voice that's like telling them, like, you're not allowed to have fun whilst you do it. Because if so, you're not taking yourself or you're not taking it seriously enough.
That's also the same with like overtraining as well.
Yeah.
Like, you can easily fall into the trap of overtraining, and that was my biggest takeaway with my coach over the last year, the Olympic year, that I was probably overtraining, or definitely overtraining to a point when I was trying to make the team and desperate to make the team. I was doing anything to make it. I was doing way too much, and then someone said to me sometimes, obviously everyone always tells you to train smart. Just reminded me that sometimes doing your best at a certain time is doing less. You just need to be smart. You need to remember to be smart, and you just forget that sometimes very easily. Get lost in things.
Take me through a week of training. What was it like?
Don't want to reveal my coach's sorcery, but so you'd have like a speed day. This is in my training. It would obviously change between groups, but a speed day. On Monday we would do like a gym day, like an activation. Tuesday we do a speed day. This is just an example. And then speed is like shorter distances. So say anywhere up to 80 meters, which would be quite extensive. So like 50s or so you can really hit that speed section.
So it's specifically targeted on acceleration and top end speed, or not even top end speed?
Yeah, so hopefully you get to that top end speed. Depending on what time of the year, sometimes you'd literally just be the excel part. Like, sometimes you'd literally just do to 10 meters a few times, and that would be it on that day. Depending on what type of the year and where, like periodization, where you're trying to peak and things like that, you would change that aspect. And also injury prevention. The longer that you're in that zone of your top speed, the more dangerous it is. So sometimes, like, my coach will even you'll take it back as little as a few meters because you don't want you to hit that zone for that long, type of thing.
God, it's so intricate in your sport.
And then after that you'd have like a tempo day, which is like just flowing and like almost like a flush out for the body, but also like maintaining technique and things like that. You can work on different things that day. Circuits all throughout these, and then like the other running session we do is like a speed endurance session, which for example would be like 300s. And then you'd vary the rest depending on how quick they are. So depending on the time of year, you'd work on, but in turn, you're just working on that speed endurance aspect of the race. So then when you pair them all together and you've got the speed endurance, the tempo-y parts, maintaining the technique, you end up with a full runner that's doing gym a few times a week and strength and conditioning circuits, things like that. So there's loads of things that would come into it. It looks quite varied rather than just running for every day.
Yeah. With the tempo run, what kind of distances are you doing?
So I would do, like for example, maybe you would do 8 100s, literally just striding them out, or you would do longer runs if you want to like tempo around the bend and things like that. It kind of varies. It's just like
Obviously, you're never going over 400 meters.
no. So the idea would just be shorter rest, slower, just to get the body going. I actually use one of them. You know them curved treadmills. There's one downstairs. I use one of them most tempo days just because it takes the impact off. I've had quite a few injuries in my time, so that's one of the things I do for prevention is just to take them impacts off hitting the floor and do it on there instead.
What about with the gym-based sessions, the S&C? Is the purpose of that just to condition the body to prevent injury, or are there things you're doing in those sessions which are actually going to help you become faster?
Yeah, bit of both. So I mean, I guess obviously if you stay injury free, that helps you get faster because you've got more consistent training on the track. But then the rest of the time, I do a lot of power cleans. I power clean like twice a week. That's probably the gym exercise my coach cares the most about.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the Olympic weightlifting.
And then eventually you'd get heavier and heavier in cleans. So at that point, you're lifting, a substantial amount of weight at speed, and that's kind of that's the main exercise we'd focus on. And ideally, you'd be like 1.5 times your body weight in a power clean, your personal best.
Okay.
So I'm like 81 kilograms, 82 kilograms. So my power clean is like, my PB is 125. So it's around that area.
And that's to build the explosive potential of your hip flexors?
Both. So it's that like, so obviously power clean start on the floor. It's the the extension of everything.
Yeah.
So like your knees extend, your hips extend, and then you're in that position. That is, if you picture someone coming out of a blocks and they extend out on their first step, you get that same power extension, and it's getting that like that. And basically especially in that drive phase, each step is you basically like extending your body, the knees extending, the hips extending.
Because looking at the movement,
you
like you wouldn't think. Sorry to interrupt. You wouldn't think looking at a power clean, that directly translates to sprinting, but it does, doesn't it? When you break it down like that.
And then it's also obviously just the speed of movement in the muscles itself when they're doing it is the thing you're training as well.
You mentioned injuries. You said you've had your fair share of injuries at the time. Talk to me about that. Again, the physical process of coming back from them, but more how do you mentally deal with getting injured?
I think it can be. It's obviously it's a personal thing for everyone, so I think people can deal with it in different ways. But one of the things that I say is like, over time as an athlete, you should expect to pick up certain like, I don't know how to call it. I was going to say medals, but there's too many medals in athletics. Expect to pick up certain like qualities if you want to make it as an elite athlete in any sport. And then one of the things in sports where there's impacts, so like jiu-jitsu or running impacts of the floor, you're going to pick up injuries at some point in your career. It might not be severe, hopefully they're not, but you'll have setbacks at some point. And like, it's important to obviously, it's so cliche, but learn from your mistakes. If you don't learn from your mistake, you made a mistake. And then, but also like, I think it's really important to like be very conscious of how you're feeling in them times, so that when it happens again, you've got this like toolbox of things that you know where to draw from. I say all this to say I picked up an injury when I was 17, a hamstring injury, and like I said earlier, when I was 17, that was kind of my like breakout season as a junior, as you will. Picked up an injury in my hamstring, and like getting through that at the time was very hard, but it did mean that the next time that it happened, I had acquired this toolbox of things mentally that helped me get through that time. And then the further and further down the line you go, hopefully you're able to get back from them setbacks. I think one of my issues has been like, when I was like at the early stages of my career, I always had the mindset of like, just bounce back. So I would like get injured and then straight away the next day figure out, okay, who am I seeing for rehab? What physio am I seeing? What exercises shall I do? Let's get on it. Bam, 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 get back to fitness. When that became an issue was like last year when the stakes were higher, I broke my toe, ended up in a boot. And and like because I'd set all these expectations and like things hit me a little bit harder later on in the year when I was running into issues, and I eventually didn't make the Olympic team. I struggled to like bounce back as quickly as I could have, and it's because everything was weighing me down a bit more than normal. And then again, that made me like, if you go through something harder, it makes you learn even more. And like, if you have a maths test that's hard, you have to learn even more for the maths test. And that was just another example of one of them that like I had to learn so much more about myself to get through that. That unfortunately recently I picked up another injury, and I've been able to keep my morale up so much more because I've learned from my mistakes of the past. And like, yeah, I think the main thing that I'm saying is that I think it's like, it's important that it's a personal thing for everyone, and you learn what personally works for you. I'm sure you've had setbacks and figured out how to get through them, and now you've got this toolbox for Aaron's injury toolbox. How do we get around it? And that's what I think's important to create from your own. And you'll have an injury toolbox, you'll have a family issues toolbox, you'll have a relationship, and then so hopefully you can tackle all of these things when they come, and you don't get hit by them and knocked down and can't get back up each time. But yeah, definitely, if you are one of them people that like you get knocked down and you bounce back up, definitely take time to realize how you bounce back up rather than just doing it and dealing with it, because it is tough and it should be tough. So you can recognize that.
Yeah, I like that. Be conscious about the process. I think it's so easy we will just go through the motions of things. We rush through things and we don't realize how we got through them.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about this a lot recently with like my day-to-day routine, like my productivity. Like I'm just trying to go from A to B to C to D, and I'm not actually analyzing and being aware of like what's enabling me to get those tasks done. How am I switching from task to task? And being conscious of the process then allows you to replicate it or not if it didn't go well.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
I wrote this, like, I used to write poems when I was younger. Still kind of do, but more so when I was younger. And like, I wrote this. I got injured like I think it was start of 2019. I picked up probably my third hamstring injury, and at this point, I'd had hamstring issues throughout the year, but it wasn't necessarily damaged. But I picked up a hamstring injury, and then the next day I wrote this poem called "The Brave Idiot." And like, for being a 19-year-old, this poem always sticks in my head now. Like 6 years later, and it was basically, the idea was that like, you fall down once, and then you stand up, and everyone thinks you're brave, and like you're a hero, and blah blah blah. You fall down twice, and you stand back up, and everyone's like, "Wow, this guy's so brave! Like, how does he do that?" And then maybe by the fifth time, if you fall down by the same reason and you stand back up, maybe people think you're an idiot at this point. And I kind of wrote this in this idea that I felt like a brave idiot. Like, I felt like this guy that was like, I'm very aware that this keeps happening to me, and I'm fine dealing with the fact that I'm going to carry on because I need to make it in the sport. And that was kind of the idea that I had this whole time, that like, this is very brave of me. And I'm aware that other people might think I'm an idiot. And that was kind of how I got through all these injuries, of like, as long as I keep learning, I know that this wasn't my fault, 'cause it was a different reason to what happened before, and like, maybe I'm just more susceptible to injuries, blah, blah, blah. Later found out that is the case. But yeah, it's just always in my mind, that brave idiot
That's
idea.
Brilliant.
Of like, yeah.
That's what I want to read that. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you know me, very philosophical, or I like to think so anyway. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, I think there's another bit of truth in that as well. Not to go off on a tangent, but there's something to that like, if you bounce back once, everyone loves the redemption story. You bounce back twice, everyone loves the redemption story. It's almost like people don't want to see you be too resilient.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can imagine that scenario, can't you? Like, by the time you've bounced back the fifth time, all of a sudden people aren't going, "Oh wow, I can't believe like he's done it again." There were people going, "I'm fed up of him."
Yeah.
Him having his redemption stories. Like,
I always think there's also a certain element of like, I think it can confuse yourself if you are an athlete and you keep getting these setbacks, or anything in life, but obviously I know athletics. If you are an athlete and you keep getting these setbacks, I sometimes don't understand how I'm bouncing back from some things. And like last year when I didn't make the Olympic team, I had I had amount of time to think because I had some time off, and like I remember being really like confused as to how I'd gone this whole year through all of these little injuries and like not being. I've trained for like 6 weeks, like 6-7 weeks on track throughout the whole year, and I was confused how I was just dealing with it. And then I actually took time to process it and think, and just been like, I'd even confused myself, and I was the person doing it. So for people around me that were like my family that were watching on me, saying, "Oh, I'm getting this MRI scan. This has just happened. I've got this X-ray," and like, and then I'm still turning up every single day to train, trying my best. Like, so yeah, to carry on from what you're saying, like it can be other people don't want to see you resilient, but then also I was confused myself as to how it was happening. I think it's important to actually reflect, think about all of that stuff, and then because it can help you grow as a person when you realize that you've been doing that. Even if you need to change or stay the same, it helps.
Yeah, I think what you just talked about there, it goes beyond resilience to be able to just go through life when things aren't going the way you expect, and to be able to dust yourself off. And it's easy to externally be resilient in that you carry on going through the motions, doing what you need to do, but internally, like, you're in turmoil. Like, that's still difficult, but easier than doing what you need to do, and internally as well, like, you're at peace with it. You've got that contentment, and like, I could tell, like, when you said that, like, that was really genuine. Like, no matter what was going on, like, through that year, like, you internally were dealing with it well. Like, where does that come from? I suppose I kind of asked that earlier, but like, that's more than resilience. It's internal character. And like, do you believe in God? Like, do you think that's like instilled from like a greater, more existential purpose? Is it something you think you've got from your family, from your parents, that they've instilled into you? Is it something you've constantly cultivated?
It's a good question. I don't believe in God. I was actually going to ask you about that earlier when you mentioned how going through ultramarathons helped you get closer in faith. Yeah, I don't believe in God, and I think sometimes that has in itself.
Brought you peace.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say as an athlete. So when I perform well, everything is on me, and when I don't, everything is on me. And again, when I say all this, this isn't to take away anyone with religious beliefs or anything like that. This is just how I've gone through life. But yeah, everything is on me, and everything, either way, positive or negative, everything's on me. And I think that has given me a lot of power in itself, knowing that. And that is one of the reasons that I liked athletics all this time, is that, like, because it's an individual sport, I'm in control of everything. And yeah, kind of like you said, that gives me a lot of peace in the fact that I succeed and it was all on me.
It's from within.
Yeah,
like, it's not a result of anything else from within.
Yeah, but the resilience in character, I don't have an answer. The one thing that I have said before is that my parents did put me in a position of, like, I'm like a professional dream chaser. That's basically my job. Like, and I'm sure they realized that from a young age, and they've always kind of allowed me to express myself in that space, whether it be music or sport. Fortunately, sport's a bit more successful than my music career, but yeah, they've always allowed me to chase my dreams, no matter how stupid they were. And like, fortunately, I understand that it's a privilege to even be able to chase your dreams. Like, some people don't have the choice. You have to be in certain places, or you have to work, or I understand that's a privilege. So I'm very grateful for the fact that they've put me in a position where I can chase my dreams in that aspect. So yeah, I maybe that dream chaser mentality is from them. I'm not sure. It's been a constant in my life.
I think it's clear they gave you the space to be who you have grown to be. Yeah, so they like set the stage for you, and you grab the reins with both hands.
Yeah. And equally with my brother. Like, my brother himself played football for one. He's the smartest guy I know. He's one of them, like, all through school was full mark in everything, literally everything. And like, my brother is literally the epitome of a big brother. And I think without that, I wouldn't have been able to excel as a little brother. So even down to him, like, that whole network growing up has eventually allowed me as an adult individual to them to have this Yeah, to have that mindset. Yeah, but that's probably the only thing I can say that has impacted it. Other than that, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, I also love the philosophical side of it, and I do think that helps. Like I think knowing that I enjoy that stuff and thinking in them ways helps me carry on. Like that.
Yeah. It's clear to me listening to you that you do have people. They either see things through a poet's lens or they don't, and like I can tell that you do, which is like, I mean, I suppose that's an obvious statement considering, like, you know, I think that attracts athletes and artists as well. And I want us to talk about your music too. And I think that's where it comes from. Like to be able to see things through that artistic lens, through a poet's lens, through that philosophical lens, it does bring a certain character, I would say, aura and peace downstream from that about people.
You can't say aura anymore in 2025. My immediate mind just went to memes and stuff. I'm
like so naive about this, so I don't explain it to me.
I'm gonna sound so. Have you heard of aura farming?
No.
Oh, I can't.
I'm like so like detached from the matrix. Please try to. I need to know. Aura is a word in my recovery, because otherwise people are going to be thinking.
Oh, really?
Aura farming. I have no idea what it is.
Have you heard aura used at all in like?
I know what aura means.
Like, no, but it's obviously been popular.
Yeah. I don't know. Clearly, I don't know the.
I love that. Yeah. I can't explain it without sounding cringy as hell.
I need to know. You need to educate me.
So aura got popularized. I don't know when. Maybe last year.
Okay.
As like it literally is the word. The slang is also the word, but the term just got popularized more in like common internet language, I would say.
Okay.
And then recently, aura farming means like someone that's trying to like get more aura. So like you would do things to try and get more aura. So like say like if I was sitting here like this the whole time, I'd be aura farming.
Okay. So it's like what like swag was like 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's more or less the same. Yeah. But yeah, as soon as you said it,
why does the internet have to ruin everything?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a perfectly good word, and I just completely lost focus as soon as you said it. So, I don't even know what you said.
God. Can I not say that anymore? I want to be able to say that. If that's what everyone else is thinking. Yeah.
I think you said something about... I genuinely can't remember.
I said carry. I think I says it gives you a certain... When you're able to see the world through a philosophical lens, it gives you... it's because you have a certain character, a certain aura. And downstream from that, a certain piece. I suppose that's the key though. I suppose that's from people trying to create an aura around them that like isn't actually coming from within. Because like, God, I can't detach it from what you said now. But
the best auras are like...
but they're authentic, they're genuine.
They're authentic, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell.
Yeah. You can't farm an aura.
You can tell when someone's aura farming.
That's so funny, aura farming. That has become a thing. I think farming as a verb has been like reignited because of, I think it's come from cryptocurrencies, hasn't it?
Really?
Well, that's what I think. Like mining, farming, because they call it, like coin farming.
Maybe.
I think that's where that's come from.
Yeah, it actually does have a terminology.
Because I've heard people use the phrase clip farming.
Yeah, clip farming.
I've heard clip farming.
In the space of podcasts, you need to know about clip farming.
Yes. I only know about that because I had MMA fighter Shay Ingram, big up and coming MMA fighter from Worcester, on the podcast a few weeks ago, and then I'll do the clips after the podcast, post them on social media, invite the guests as a collaborator so they can share them if they want to, and he accepted on one of them and posted it to his story, and I think like on the same day he'd posted a clip from my podcast and a clip from another podcast he had on his story in the same day, and mine was the second one, and he put underneath mine, allow me, I'm clip farming. So that's the only way I know about that.
Was it a good clip?
Huh?
Was it a good clip?
I'm still going to say it's a good clip. I made it. It was from my podcast.
Maybe I should have thought about clip farming before I came on this. Before I used to do interviews, I used to speak to my brother and be like, "What? Do we have anything cool to say here? Like, what cool things should I?" But now I've stopped doing that.
Is that how people use that? Like they say clip farming, like they intentionally like.
So clip farming can be like someone that's intentionally doing things that they know will then create a clip. Like if I went I beat KSI in a race, and then basically what happened was that would be clip farming, because I know if you clip that, KSI is going to be in the title and blah.
Now I know what clip farming is too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So in that space, yeah, so if that guy was intentionally saying stuff that he knew would go viral.
So that's what he was implying. I thought he just meant like he was like gathering clips.
It can be that as well, though. It can be that. But normally then people are like doing things that they know are clip worthy.
Yeah.
So what I should have done before I came here was think of a bunch of clip worthy.
Yeah. You're not clip farming, bro.
I should be helping both of us.
That's so funny. Yeah. I wonder if he was clip farming. Clip farming in the aura sense.
Do you think about that whilst you're podcasting?
I'd be lying if I said no. I mean, like, because obviously I do one of these each week, so it's not like I have to consciously think about it. But like, there'll be moments in a conversation where, like, you know, you'll say something, someone will say something, and I'll be like, oh, I've got something which I think is like very valuable to say in response to that, and I do think, oh, that'll make a good clip. Yeah. So I guess I'm a clip farmer.
I actually did this like
maybe I'm aura farming as well.
Maybe we don't even know. Have you never heard of negative aura?
In what's it like? I've heard of
the phrase negative aura. Oh, he's got negative aura. It was popular like last year, or maybe the year before.
No, that's what I mean. I've heard that phrase just like in terms of like I've heard it. You know, that's English language to me. I know what a negative aura is, but that's what I mean. I'm so detached from like popular culture.
Yeah,
like, I don't watch the news. Like I like 0.0001% of memes make it through to me. Like my mates will like say something in like a funny voice, and I'll just like look at them blankly, and they're like, "They won't seen that meme." And I'm like, "No, I don't." Yeah, I'm so far detached from anything that's pertinent in today's society.
What I was going to say was I did this like panel talk on the weekend for England Athletics with these two other runners, and the questions were very much like we all got asked a question each about setbacks, one about community, like they were very like that, and so I planned one answer that I knew that they were going to ask, and it was about like my Olympics and not making the team, etc. So I planned this answer, given this basically like 5-minute like monologue about this whole story and kind of what I mentioned earlier about like the success thing, but like in a more like intentional way, to come to an ending of this story where like I'd said this statement that I thought was like worth a clap. And then
you'd really poeticize.
And then no one clapped, and then literally afterwards I was thinking, this is the only clip from this whole panel talk.
That was so funny.
This is the
you're right for aura farming.
I was literally aura farming, and it just didn't work. And I was like, all right,
Also, the internet just wrecks everything because they've slapped this like cringy label on, and realistically, like people have been aura farming since the beginning of time. If people, you know, don't want to say, people are lying if they say, "Oh, I don't want to sound more intelligent. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to appear better to the world."
Yeah,
like. So and now that's aura farming.
Wait, so
you can't do that anymore.
The meme that came to my mind is actually a tweet, and it was basically, just quickly I'll say, it was like that's why it threw me off so much because I found it so funny. It was like, you remember when you obviously don't remember when the plague was a thing. and
sorry, I'm not confused. You obviously don't remember. I thought you remembered the tweet because I hadn't seen the tweet. I didn't know what it was. Yeah, I remember, bro. It was bad time for everyone.
And
I've heard about it.
The doctors would wear them like capes and like that bird-looking beak mask thing.
Yeah. There was on Assassin's. Yeah, the Quacks.
Is that what they were called?
I think because they were on Assassin's Creed, weren't they?
Yeah. I never played it, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And the tweet was basically like, imagine you've got the plague and the doctor comes in aura farming. And it was a picture. It was that guy. Yeah, as soon as you said aura, that was what popped into my head. And I was thinking, I don't know what you've just said, because I'm thinking about this bird.
So good. Coming for your podcast. Guys are apartment, and I'm just sitting here.
I don't know how you edit this. I can send you the pic.
It's all in on this, bro. We don't edit anything out. So yeah, they're all, the audience is gonna have to bear with you educating me on aura farming and clip farming.
Yeah,
that is important for me to know. Clip farming. Yeah, thank you for both of those definitions.
maybe that's the clip.
Yeah. Clip farming about clip farming.
Yeah, no one's ever thought of that.
It's like a clipception. Music. That's what we're going to talk about. Yeah, I asked the initial question at the start of the conversation. Your first significant moment with music, and then we obviously went on to your progression through sports, through athletics.
Mm-hmm.
Give me that script with music. What were when did you start making music? When did you start like becoming an artist in that sense?
So music is a lot more simple for me. So like, I loved music growing up. Like, I was one of them people that would, like, for Christmas, the top of my list would just be like iTunes voucher, back when you had to pay for songs and stuff like that.
iTunes vouchers.
Yeah, so I would just want a £20 iTunes voucher, and then I would carefully choose which 20 songs got the pick. Yeah, I just loved music growing up, and then I played the saxophone. I was just really into different types of music, and then as I got older, me and my brother started to. So I was writing music kind of all through school. Around the time of like 13 is like the first lyric I remember writing, and I would literally just write it in my room like on a pen and pad, and then eventually moved to my iPad and would type the lyrics out, and then I'd record them on voice memos, and then that would be my idea of making a song. And then eventually it was like my brother went to uni, and I went to visit him. We'd been gone for a little bit of time, like away from each other whilst he was at uni, and I'd been writing a bit more at this point. And then he played this beat. I think this is how this happened. He played this beat that I'd written on, and I was like, oh, by the way, I wrote a few lyrics to this. He didn't know that I rapped. And then he was like, you write lyrics? No, wait, I write lyrics too.
Oh, wait, so he never knew? Like,
no, we never knew. So like, all through childhood, we'd like rap songs together, like on a big boombox speaker, and we both had mics, and we'd like make music together like that. But they would be like other people's songs. So like, I'd be Jay-Z and he'd be Kanye West, for example, and we'd do the whole song, and then we'd do the next one, and then so we always. But
you didn't know that each other
were
wrote.
Writing. No, so we'd always had music in our lives together like that, but never our own stuff. So this was probably when I was around 15, 16. When we started, at that point, we would pick the same beats to write on, and then when we next saw each other, we would show each other the verses, and then eventually it became a thing of like, okay, I wrote a chorus, do you want to write a verse? And then I'll write the other verse. Now we have a song. And then it became a thing of, he did a radio show, so we went to the radio studio and used the mics to record. So then eventually we started making music together and releasing it. But the one thing I always say about music is that, like, it's been this one consistent in my life alongside running, but it's like the one thing that like, it consistently is just important to me as a thing in itself. So running has always been the thing. I want to make it as a runner and make money and this be my career. As much as I would love to be a pop star, like I would love to be a pop star, I'm not gonna lie. I would do music if I didn't release it. I would still make music if I didn't release it. So like, it would always just be this thing that's in my life, and I would do it with my brother still if we didn't release it.
It's not as goal orientated.
Yeah, and I think when I started releasing music, it did become kind of naturally. Kind of before we started this podcast, actually, you spoke about the podcast and you wanted to make it blow up. As soon as I started releasing music, I was like, all right, well, I might as well be Central C then, and like make all these videos and music videos and like blah blah blah. Wanted to get streams, and then it became less like every time I would listen to a beat after that, I would try and write a catchy hook. Whereas before that, I would write out how I was feeling and like just cool stuff I wanted to say, and like I'd write about that athletics meet I went to last week that no one cared about, and like I would just do all of these things that was so personal to me that like it wouldn't even make sense if someone else listened to it. And then eventually I stopped doing that and started to making music I thought was going to go viral. And I think like realizing that I didn't actually prefer that is when I came to the conclusion that, you know what, music is actually just a thing that I love. if I become a pop star, I become a pop star. If I don't, I don't.
Mm.
So yeah, it's quite, that journey is special to me in the sense that like I've realized this. I think these days everyone's kind of like, even if they don't want to admit it, teeny bit capitalist in the fact that like if you say you've got a hobby, everyone was like, how do we make money off it? Or like you know what I mean? So if I say I do music, everyone always says like where do you want to take it, or like how do you get more streams, or no one ever talks about like what do you think of this melody on that piano? Like,
it's killed it. Like I call it the TikTokification of society, of life. Like everything's been TikTokified. Everything's got to be clip farmed and put in into a 7-second soundbite, and it's got to fit with the algorithm, and it's got to be engaging. No one's got an attention span anymore. And I think like when it comes to any creative endeavor, when you try and force it, it can't be forced. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be genuine. And when you try to like do it for the views, you try to do it for anything other than the love for doing it, it takes it away completely. It's different to any athletic endeavor in that sense. Like you can force an athletic endeavor, like you can push through it. Like with it, my experience anyway, like with writing, with doing a podcast, posting anything on social media, like when you're trying to force something, when you're trying to push it through, it kills the creative process, and whatever you produce is like you're not happy with it anymore. It's not really from you. It's from like who you think is going to be watching it.
Yeah, and you can learn you could learn how to write a joke. You could learn the structure of a comedy show. You could learn all of that, but like you might not be Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Well, like you can learn to make a song, and I could learn how Pharrell structures all of his songs, but like I don't have what Pharrell has, and that's fine. I also think music's one of them things that like you should be able to do it. I'm not saying I'm bad. You should be able to do it and be bad at it. So like I release songs that like I don't think they're Pharrell Williams worthy songs, but like I know that people enjoy them, and there's groups of people around that enjoy them, and like some kids might actually think I'm their favorite rapper. Like first time someone said that was mesmerized. Like, why would I be your favorite rapper?
No, that's so cool.
Just tell me, about that time.
Yeah.
It was like I did like this. Me and my brother did the show, and then it was at Aston Villa's football ground. They had this like fan stage outside. And we did this performance there, and then I saw this kid mouthing all the words in the front row, and I was like, and these were random, probably partially drunk football fans. Like, to be fair, they were all paying attention more than I thought they would. But yeah, there was this one kid that was mouthing all my words to this verse, and I was thinking like, what is going on here? And then it went down, and then afterwards, and then there was a bunch like people asking for pics. Them types of people that ask for pics just because they think someone's famous. There was a bunch of them type of people, but then this kid came up to us, and then I was like, like, who else do you like? What type of music? I was just making convo with the kid, and then he was like, you. I was like, who's your favorite rapper? He was like, you guys. And then I was like, you're just saying that. And then he was like, no. He was like, no, you guys. I was like,
he's like, if I become a pop star, bro, that's pretty pop star.
Yeah, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I actually can't remember what I was saying before that, but
yeah, sorry, I just thought that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
I was saying
right?
the different groups of people. Yeah.
Because like you haven't made that music for him.
No.
You know what I mean? Like that's like the biggest compliment as an artist, because like if you try, if you make a certain piece of content for the gram, or like you make a piece of music to go viral and it does, that's there'll be a little bit of satisfaction taken away from it, I think, because you did it for that reason.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you hadn't wrote that song for him to say, oh, you guys are my favorite rappers.
Yeah,
like that'd come from you, and then for that to actually gel with what somebody wanted to hear, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And the song that I saw him rapping to was actually called M54 Healf to Birmingham, which was the song literally about the motorway that goes through my hometown. Very like specific song. So yeah, it was. That was. If anyone, there's only like one person that probably could have written that song, and it was me.
Yeah.
Like, it's very specific. So yeah, like I said, it's just a personal experience to everyone. But yeah, the thing what I was saying before is, I'm not trying to say I'm a bad artist, but if I didn't run, I would obviously spend more time trying to hone in on that craft. But like one of the reasons I'm happy and like I enjoy releasing music is that I know that there's groups of people that also enjoy that. And every time I speak to another artist, I just remind them of that like, you don't put yourself down if you don't think you're Pharrell Williams. Obviously, always try and like learn more about your craft and enjoy your craft, but like that's not the be all and end all, and that's not the reason for this experience. Like, it is to enjoy and feel the things that you're feeling when people are listening or playing the music and stuff like that. Yeah, especially like that. I do some songs about athletics, and like a lot of them, I'm aware that is already a niche community. But like when I go to like my home club, and like there'll be kids that come up to me and rap the lyrics to like my athletic songs, and like for them that must be, because when I was growing up there was no rappers rapping about track. So like for them to like hear them literally rapping my lyrics back to me, it's just like that actually must be cool that you enjoy rap music and you're in a sport and there's a guy that's in the sport rapping. And so like that's one thing I especially want to do in the future more of is that style of get them people involved.
How do you ensure you maintain the correct balance, the balance that you want to, between running and between music? How do you make sure, like, it sounds to me obviously that your running is number one priority at the moment. So how do you make sure your music doesn't detract from that? Because that's something I don't want to say struggled with or fell into the trap of, because it was a learning experience, but that was something I definitely fell victim to last year with the podcast. Looking back, and I'm glad that I did, because it got it up off the ground, and I had great conversations as a result of it. But looking back this year, I'm consciously putting grappling, competing as my number one priority, and putting less time into the podcast this year because I'm consciously focusing on that. Whereas last year, the podcast took up more time and energy than I intended it to.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you maintain that balance?
Good question. I think for me, like, they're really intertwined, music and athletics. I actually think music and sport in general are really intertwined in like pop culture, and that's one of the reasons.
Reminds me of the Drake line in "Thank Me Now." He says music and sports are so synonymous. They want to be, we want to be them, and they want to be us.
Oh yeah, literally. Like growing up, I idolized both, like Bolt and Kobe Bryant, my like biggest inspirations in that aspect, and like a bunch of music. But like I would watch Jay-Z be on stage with like a thick gold chain, and I think like why do I want that chain? And then I'd see Usain Bolt win a gold medal, and think like I want that medal. And like for me, they were literally both like that. So like the whole time growing up, I didn't really see them as like separate things. They were both like rock stars to me. Like Usain Bolt, there's when there's photos of like 10 photographers around him, and like they're struggling to keep up with him, and there's flashes everywhere, and he's posing, and like that is to me like what a rock star is. So like I remember when I was like 17 and starting to get a bit better at athletics, I remember like captioning an Instagram photo saying like sprinters are the new rock stars, and I remember feeling like that's the coolest thing I've ever said. But yeah, to me they were quite synonymous. So like in my life they're really intertwined. When I was growing up, like I would like win a sports day, go home, and then write lyrics about it to a beat that I liked, and then I won a national champs when I was 17. That was my first and only national title. And I came home, literally straight away wrote this song, and it was on a Notorious B.I.G. beat, and it was No Money, No Problems. I don't know if you know that song, but Biggie comes in and he's like, it's B.I.G. P.O. P.P.A. And I went home and I wrote like, it's the R.I.O. got gold, I'm the greatest. And then I wrote this whole verse. No one ever heard it. And I basically just kept doing that my whole athletics career. And then eventually I've made the Europeans team in 2022. And I was sitting, it was like the day that I got selected, and I was sitting with my brother eating dinner, and he was like, oh, imagine if like we dropped a song about it. Like kind of like how I've been doing this whole time writing about it. Imagine if we actually released the song. And then we just started thinking of lyrics over dinner, and I was like, you know what, let's actually do this. That was the first time I ever rapped about athletics and showed people, and it seemed like this new concept, but it's been something I've been doing since I was like 17, and now I just do it all the time. So for me, they're very intertwined. And even in like, I was saying to someone the other day, like I was warming up, and when you're doing like a really mundane task, and like your brain goes elsewhere eventually. Like 45 minutes, say like you're on a long drive, eventually you'll just start thinking loads. I know you're a thinker. You'll probably like, or just start talking to yourself or something like that. Or like when you're relaxing, or it's just your mind will just drift. I have that in a warm up. So like I'll get to the end of my warm up and my brain's just like been ticking over this whole time, and then I'll just start rapping. I'll just start thinking of lyrics. So even then, it's so intertwined that sometimes they actually happen at the same time. Like I'll actually be in a warm up area for a competition, and I'll be going to my bag to write down lyrics in my phone that I've just thought of. So yeah, they basically just exist at the same time. They're my two consistencies in my life, other than my family. Like they've just always been music and sport.
I think that's beautiful. The way that they feed one another. Like in your world, they're not detracting from one another. Like each one feeds the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's almost a form of journaling for you. Like, do you feel like it helps you reflect, emotionally digest what you're doing on the track side of things, what you're doing in life?
Yeah, I would definitely say yes and no. I'd say yes because there's definitely times where like I've purposely gone to an instrumental to get out my feelings, and I think that's natural for any artist. Like last year, I broke my toe, and literally like I broke my toe on the Monday. I got put in the boot on Wednesday, like a medical boot. And I don't know if you're familiar with Kanye West Through the Wire song, and that's about Kanye got in a car crash, then he got his jaw wired shut, so he wrapped that song Through the Wire in the hospital. And as soon as I got put in the boot, my brain thought, this is my Through the Wire moment, like this is my Kanye moment. So I literally got home and I had the boot on, and I was elevating my foot at the time on the chair because that helped with the recovery. And I sat there with headphones in for probably like a couple hours, literally just writing. I was crying the whole time, like to the beat. So yeah, that was a really like emotional experience for me. I the first time I showed my brother and dad, I was struggling around Christmas time. I think it was on Christmas Day, and I was like, oh, by the way, I wrote this song, and I just couldn't stop the tears coming back as soon as the beat came in. So yeah, I mean, like music can be really powerful in that sense. But then I said no because there's been times where like I think some people assume everything I'm writing needs to be like as if it was a diary book. And that song, for example, Through the Fire, is probably my most personal thing I've ever written, and everything I said, I mean probably more than anything I normally say. It was very like succinct and personal, every single line. Yeah. But then there's other times I've said a story that actually probably never even happened, or like I'm drawing off, like I like rapping about girls. It's been like and love and everything around that topic. And like me and my brother, when we were younger, we would probably just exclusively write about girls. It obviously changed as I matured. But yeah, like there's been multiple times where like I would tell a story and I'm just writing a story. Like
it's fiction at
that
point.
Yeah, it's just like the same way an author would write a book. I'm writing a story, it just happens to be on a song. And I think a lot of people sometimes assume that it has to be your diary, and like it just doesn't. Like sometimes I'd watch a film and then be inspired by a line and then turn it into a song, and I was just basing it on the film. So yeah, yes and no.
Yeah, no, I identify with that completely. There's a writer that I follow on Instagram and Twitter, and he has in his bio, everything I write, I only write about things that I struggle with. And I remember when I first started writing, I published like a weekly newsletter on Substack, and obviously I post a lot of like snippets from it on social media. And I remember thinking about that, and I was like, oh, like, do I like, what should I put like on my story whenever I post something like, oh, this is what I'm struggling with? And I thought, no, because that's not true. I personally don't only write about things that I struggle with. Like you said, like, you know, I write poetry that I'll publish on my newsletter, some of which is very personal to me. And then I've written things, whether it's like emotional guidance or like, you know, mental health guidance, like, you know, philosophical protocols, whatever, poems that are nothing to do with how I'm feeling and things I'm currently struggling with. They're things that I've maybe seen other people struggle with that I want to provide advice and guidance on, because I feel like I'm almost, you know, at a better standing on this currently, so I can help other people that aren't in such a great place. So yeah, it's interesting. I think it's only natural for people to think that what whatever art people create is a byproduct of whatever they're internally feeling inside. And I think that is where like the most powerful art comes from, 100%. But I think there's also been many a great love song written by great artists that have not not experienced like a word of that in real life.
Yeah. And also sometimes in like your sense, say you're writing about a topic area that you are outside of, sometimes it's easier to write from that standpoint and you're not emotionally involved, and you can give like a really clear and coherent like piece of work about it. And maybe if you're in it, you're going to be amidst other things and have emotions involved, and it won't be as clear. So sometimes it actually helps.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I do think sometimes if you're not that way inclined or creatively inclined, you might just assume that everything someone says creatively is true, or a diary writing, or so I get a lot from music, but sometimes it's just literally not the case.
I remember when I found out about like how many of Drake's songs, I'm a massive Drake fan,
Yeah.
were ghost written, and I was like, I can't believe, like, these personal love stories, like some of them are like such personal songs, and I still want to believe like he had like such a hand in writing them, but then finding out like so many of like your favorite tracks weren't actually written by the artist that you're identifying with them with. That is a heartbreaking process.
I thought the same. I thought that, just for clarification, I write all my songs, but I thought the same thing when I watched the Whitney Houston documentary or biopic, and I didn't know that she didn't write any of the songs. Like she didn't write a single song, and they were all just fully written by someone else, and she performed them. I had no idea, and I was thinking like, it's almost for a second I was thinking, oh, that's upsetting. I was like, do you not want to dance with somebody then, or like who are you singing about? But then I quickly realized the power to perform that and make me think that you wrote that and it came from your heart is equally impressive.
That's the word that came to my mind, like the power to be able to take something that you're not even emotionally invested in, that didn't come from you, and then deliver it in
make
that
me
way.
Believe it.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, you made me believe that you really wanted to dance with somebody, and like that is fine.
Yeah, and it's like we don't expect actors to write their own lines.
Yeah, there's loads, especially in rap when Drake sings, because you don't expect Taylor Swift to actually sing a songwriter, but like we know that Justin Bieber doesn't write all of his songs, but then, and it's fine. But then in rap, when Drake has a ghostwriter, it completely ruins his credibility. And I don't want to talk about like the history of hip hop and stuff, because I there is a place for writing your own raps and etc. But like it is weird that there is that. Do
you think it's because, like in his earlier music, he really went, or not even just his earlier music, throughout like his whole catalogue, he like went, he does the storytelling thing, right? Not the traditional like 90s hip hop storytelling way of rapping that like Will Smith, he used to rap in stories. But like Drake has always done the storytelling kind of thing, right? So like, do you think it's because of that like people like were so disappointed when they found out?
Drake feels like he lets you in. He feels like he lets you into his life. He says real names and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it depends what culture you're in. I think if you're in like a hip hop culture and you came from that, just writing your own lyrics itself is the issue. And like that is the one make people emotional if they find out someone doesn't, just on that. But yeah, I think outside of that, maybe it is that like you believe this guy and it didn't even come from him. I don't know.
No.
It's interesting.
Or maybe it's just because it's Drake.
What do you think about Drake and Kendrick? This is proper podcast talk.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like this actually because we never actually usually have these kind of conversations. You're bringing popular culture into this podcast. It's very different to the usual episodes. I don't want to go on record, and I can't go on record. Drake's my guy, bro.
So how do you think it played out? Let's slow this down. So Kendrick writes the verse. The original verse mentions the big three.
Well, you're going to have to educate me on what the beef was actually about, because that's what I mean. I only listen to the songs. I don't know what the beef's about because I don't pay attention to pop culture.
So they've had like a long-standing back and forth of really subliminal messages to each other in songs. Kind of like a competitive sport thing of like, I'm the best, you're the best.
Yeah, well, there was always an underlying comparison.
Yeah, and then eventually I think it got, as Drake's maybe got a bit more like clear about his gambling and drinking stuff side of things and partying, and Kendrick's really gone the other way, maybe the difference between them became really apparent. So then Drake wrote a song with J. Cole.
Does Kendrick not do? Does he not party? Does he not?
He's way more of like a family man by what it seems like in that's like the general
because that's something I don't really, I know more about Drake than like any other
through songs
artist.
and things like that.
And as well, like I've watched some interviews, but I mean I'm completely naive about like pop culture.
Okay. So
I just listen to music.
Kendrick called himself Kung Fu Kenny for like a whole album rollout because he was this like wise guy. So then this is a quick run through. Drake and J. Cole released a song called First Person Shooter, and they basically say the top three is them two and Kendrick. They say that in the song. A year later, Kendrick releases a song with a verse in it that says, "Mother F the big three, it's just big me." So he's saying, it's just me here. So then Drake releases a song replying back, and that was probably the first song you heard, called Push Ups.
Mm-hmm.
And he's telling Kendrick to drop.
Okay.
And then Kendrick ends up dropping a couple songs. Drake drops again, and then obviously it played out. Not Like Us ended was the last song. The one that's Not Like Us is that big song. Not Like Us.
Oh yeah. That's what I mean. And like, but that wasn't the last one, right? That's just like the one that.
Oh, sorry, that was the second last one. Drake did another one that, where he like denied all the
I thought
allegations.
there was a few after that.
No, just the one Drake one.
Okay. Yeah.
So do you think Drake won?
That's me.
We need to get the clip.
You're not clipped off in this. No way. I don't know. It's like I said, I don't know about the.
You don't know deep.
I don't know about the beat behind the scenes, so I can't comment on that.
You're just gonna side with Drake.
In terms of like the actual songs back and forwards, I didn't even really listen to. I listened to all the songs, but I can't remember like all the songs. I didn't really play into it that much. Not Like Us was the best song to come out.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? The only song that anybody remembers from that
was Not Like Us.
Like that was like the anthem of last year, and I hate it, but I love that song. I love that song so much.
Yeah.
And not because of like the lyrics or anything, like although some of the lyrics like do hit hard. What I always say to people is I'm more of a melody guy. Like I'll listen to a song and I'll enjoy the melody first. That's what will draw me into liking a song, and then afterwards I'll start to listen to the lyrics. So like it's that melody. Yeah. Like I love that song, and the fact that like if you asked anybody in this gym right now, like you played them all of those songs from the Beef, Not Like Us is the one that everyone's going to know, and it's probably going to be everyone's favorite. On that basis, just off the music alone, it's hard to say that Kendrick didn't win that. But I'm going to say he didn't win that because Drake's my guy.
I had like an interview for Athletics like around that time of the Beef. I can't remember what it was for. I just had an interview for something, and then the interviewer asked me if I'm Drake or Kendrick Lamar. This is in the heat of the Beef, and then I thought Kendrick Lamar was winning he was an overall winner. But at the time, I was like, to the interviewer, I was like, listen, just in case Drake ever sees this, I don't want to answer.
Yeah. Oh, so you're the same as me, like, Drake's your guy.
I was like, just so I don't cut any ties. But no, yeah.
Yeah. I believe, like, everyone knows me, like, I only shoot for the stars. Drake is going to be, well, he probably won't be on this couch one day, but Drake's going to be on this podcast one day.
Yeah,
so I can't be on record saying that he lost the Beef to Kendrick.
Would he be your dream guest?
Probably. I'm trying to think of someone that would top him. Like, there's obviously like a list. Like, mate, if I had like John Jones is like my athletic hero idol, which is like, do you know who John Jones is and what he's done? Like, that's like, simple to say to many people because obviously he's done a lot wrong. He's made a lot of mistakes outside of the octagon. But John Jones would be another dream guest. But like Drake, of course, man. I've listened to that guy. For people that listen to this and don't understand, like I listen to, I don't. It's not that I love Drake the figure. Like I said, I don't idolize him in terms of pop culture because I'm not interested in pop culture. I listened to him from when he first dropped "Thank Me Later" in 2009.
Sure, day one.
Yeah. The music you listen to they've done a lot of studies on this as well. The music you listen to when you're like basically hitting puberty or just before you hit puberty, like that's the music that holds like the biggest anchor, like in your mind and your heart and soul, because it's such a pivotal moment in your life. So that music you listen to when you grow up, that's basically going to strike a chord in you with you in a way that like no other music is.
Yeah, definitely.
So like I started listening to him then, so I've listened to him consistently for like over a decade now. So yeah, that's my guy, man. And like the depth of the songs, that like again, like that's what made it difficult when like we heard about the ghostwriting rumors. Like the depth of the songs, like growing up with that, it was like, as much as you're enjoying the music on a track like Look What You've Done, like it's emotional guidance as well. Like, it's on Take Care. It's a great song, man. That's something like I want to believe like he wrote that one, because that's super personal. It's about his mum and his uncle. I
think he said, I saw an interview where he said that all of them tracks he'd written, and like the timestamp tracks, all of him.
Well, that's it. Like, if he hasn't written those, like he's sat down with whoever has written them and explained to them the whole scenario, his whole life. So like he's had to have worked with them in conjunction on that, unless like what he's saying is completely fictitious. But then in a song like Look What You've Done, if like you go and listen to it, it's in line with whatever he said in interviews about like what his life was like in childhood, like his relationship with his mum, his relationship with his dad and stuff. So it doesn't seem to be fictitious.
What a tangent.
Yeah. I love like the places that this conversation's gone. To tie things up for us, bro. Music, sports. By the way, something I did want to raise in this conversation was I'm going to publish it tomorrow. I think I'm working on a newsletter piece, which is like guidance for young men in their 20s. Like, no one really gives you a script on how to live your 20s as a young man. Like, in your 30s, like you should be settling down, having a family, if that's what you want to do, which for most people it is. And then like the rest of your life's kind of mapped out from there, because then like your family's growing, like you're growing older. If your career's established at that point, your family's established, and your life's kind of written, that you've kind of got stability in that sense. But as a kid, like you just be a kid. Like there's no conscious thought that goes into it. In your 20s, it is like a very difficult time. And I've obviously everything from corporate law to competing in jiu-jitsu. I've tried a lot of different things and stuck with a lot of different things. So I'm writing this article to try and give people guidance. And I realised that the best advice I can personally give to a young man in their 20s that doesn't know what they want to do or like where they want to go, like try and position yourself as living in the archetype of either an artist or an athlete, or both. Because I think if you live the life of an artist or an athlete, they are the archetypes that are going to bring about the most adventure for you in your 20s, in your life as a young man. And the more adventure you have, the more life experience you're going to accumulate, the more you're going to know about yourself, the more you're going to find out about the world, the more skills you're going to gather. It's going to set you up for everything else you need later in life, and you're just going to have a tremendous adventure. Like forget about what's going to what you're going to take away from it. You'll have an amazing time. So that's basically what that article's about, and it's interesting because like you're doing both, the artist and the athlete. So that's what. Yeah, but before like we kind of conclude things, like give me your thoughts on that. Living life as an artist and an athlete, what it brings about as a young man is. How old are you?
25.
25. So yeah, I'm 26. So both slap bang in the middle of our 20s.
I couldn't agree more. I just couldn't agree more. Like I think like what I always say is that like as cringy as it sounds, I said I'm a professional dream chaser before. Like
I like that.
That idea of like chase your dreams in ways that make sense when you're in your 20s. Like you need to pay for food, you need to pay for a place to live, you need to blah, blah, blah. But you can chase your dreams now with the knowledge of like how to goal set, and like imagine your dream, pretend your dream is that goal that you've got set in work, like and actually you can make a plan to make that dream come true, and like to make that fairy tale ending. Like you can do all of that stuff as a 25-year-old with knowledge and with like some more resources and things like that. So like but yeah, like what you said about taking you on an adventure, like sport has given me and put me in positions that like are impossible to be put in elsewhere. And like you might get them in like, you might feel the same feelings in other ways, but like the positions that you get put in through these adventures is just completely different, and it's like it teaches you completely different things and quicker. Like you have to learn quicker to succeed, because as you said, like it's a young man's game. So like we don't have 30 years to build this career like someone else might have in a corporate world. You've got to learn this now. You got to learn it right now. Like you actually had to learn it a couple of years ago. So like and that's not a bad thing. You just need to learn more and catch up. Like that's not a bad thing. Yes, it's just taught me so many things. Like one of the things from this last year that like I was really proud of myself for, and like, but after the fact was, so I said I was injured for more or less the whole year. And it was time to do our British trials, and I'd only gone out of blocks, like the starting blocks, the week before, the whole year, and the week before was just because I'd done one competition. The first time I did blocks was in that warm-up area, and I put the blocks in the wrong way because I'd forgotten. Like I was just so out of it, and like, so like I'd done blocks in the warm-up area in the race, and then I went to British champs having only gone out of the starting blocks them times, and then stood behind the line and completely tried my absolute best against the whole country, and like from lane one, because I hadn't been seeded because I hadn't raced, so all the odds were against me, and I left it all on the line. And it's like, when else in life do you ever try get put in that position? Like I can't think of any other times where I've had that feeling. And like a few weeks later I got invited to go to the London Diamond League, which is, the Diamond League is basically like our highest league in athletics. It was a sold out stadium in the London Stadium, so like West Ham's football ground, the Olympic Stadium, sold out. Literally I wouldn't be able to find my family if I tried in the stands. And again, I'd done no training. All these guys have trained all year, competed all year, and it's gone well, and I'm just standing there like, I remember standing there thinking like, what am I doing here? But then again, the thing I was proud of was that like I left it all on the track, completely tried my best, and like I can't think of another time in my life where you get put in that position. And the thing I was most proud of was the fact that I was able to go through all of that and still try my best, and I learned so much through that like I can't even explain it properly. Like that feeling that all I've learned and the feeling that I got from that. I'm yet to be able to put it into words. This is just my best attempt. But yeah, you just get thrown into so many scenarios. But that I just don't think that sport is unique in that. I think that like chasing your dreams is the thing that's unique, and that feeling that you get. You know when you listen to an emotional song and there's pain in it. I feel the pain in chasing my dream. I feel the pain in not making the dream. So like when I listen to like a song where someone's talking about how they're struggling, and my thought process is that like, is that pain that comes from not making your dreams come true now when you want them, and like being there. That's where that pain comes from, and like that feeling I can't explain to someone who's not done that, and I want other people to have done that. And to do that, I think you learn so much from it. And like I've obviously the way I'm talking, I find it's so important to me. Like you just said, it's you deem it as important to you. I think like if people are in a position too, then why not?
Yeah. God, I just
like it's even before I said it's such a privilege to be able to chase your dream, and a lot of the people in the UK are as privileged, way more privileged.
Yeah.
So like, and by privilege I just mean that like you don't have to worry about food in the same aspect that you've probably eaten every day. You're fit and healthy. Yeah.
You like I said, financially, socially in a position where like it's feasible.
Yeah. So yeah, what like, and that's not even to say you're not worrying about paycheck to paycheck. You can do that and chase your dreams. That's what I was saying about the goal setting. You can work out how you can do it around these things, and like that's kind of what I like. So I go into school sometimes now. The one thing I want the kids to remember is that like, you've got a dream, you can make that happen. So like, instead of just thinking about that dream now that you're in school, let's now think about what you do through school that helps you get closer to the dream. And like, I guarantee you're going to be way more successful that way. Goal set as if you were in work hitting a goal. Do that with your dreams. Dream set, maybe we can make that.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's your flip for it.
Yeah, cool article though. I'll read that when it comes.
Yeah, no, I'll send it your way. I mean, that was a beautiful closing speech as it was, but tail things off. Before it's all said and done, we talked a lot about goals, and you talked about how your mindset's changed at different points throughout your athletic career. But for both track, for running, and music, what do you want to achieve in both realms at the end of the day?
So I want to short term, not short term, sorry, but like my goals that I've set for this year, athletics wise, is literally just to stay healthy. Stay healthy as best as possible, and like I'm aware that that's going to be hard after having a rocky year. So stay healthy as best as possible, and if I do that and I stay consistent, it's way easier for me to be happy, which is the most important thing. Be happy and healthy, and equally, if I do that and I train consistently, I'm aware that I think I'm one of the best the country's ever had at this. I really do believe that. And if I'm one of the best countries ever had, I'm one of the best in the world. And all the things, them tick box, like make the world champs, get this medal, yada yada yada, get this contracts, like all them things will happen as long as I make that process happen. So that was literally my whole goal when I sat down with my coach. That's all I said. Music wise, same thing. I just want to make music, enjoy it, and if that keeps happening and the music gets better and more people listen to it, and that means I can be a pop star and quit athletics, then so be it.
But professional or a farmer.
Yeah. But now, like literally the same thing. Like I don't set any goals other than that. Like I just want to enjoy the thing, and that's kind of how I want to move forward now. And I think in track especially that like will align better with my processes. I think other people do need them like specific goals and reach this by then, but I just want to get better every single day. That's worked for me in the past, so that's what I want to do. That's what going forward. So to summarize, I want to be the best in the country so that I'm one of the best in the world, but how to get there is a different story.
That's brilliant. I'm going to enjoy watching you act it all out. Yeah, Rio, I love what you do.
Thank you.
Like I said, it fits in exactly with the advice I want to give people as to how a young man should be spending their 20s, chasing their dreams. Where can people go, by the way, to check out what you're doing, to follow your career?
So my name's Rio Mitcham. I'm at Rio Mitcham on all the socials. Yeah, that's it. And Google, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all them, blah, blah, blah. Got a radio show coming up.
Cool.
On BBC Radio Shropshire,
Nice.
every Monday night, 6 till 7. I'm just going to be chatting about sports, so yeah, you can find me there as well.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Cool, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'll be on anytime you want.
Yeah, no, we'll have to do another one next time. If Drake gets into another beef, we can dissect that.